Payoff pitch. Into right field. Down for a hit. Stevenson comes home. Sal Stewart delivers. Slapped into left. That's down for a base hit. Stewart scores. De La Cruz home. Nathaniel Lowe left on left. The 2-run base hit. Add on for the Reds. It's 5-2.
We have 2 guys left, him and Brule. You want Stewart facing Brule or Swanson? It's just basically what it comes down to. Those are the 2 guys left available today.
Oh, boy. It was not a great weekend for your St. Louis Cardinals. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, T-Bone and I were out at the game on Friday night, Alex.
I was not.
Unfortunately, it was miserable.
Yeah.
It was hot. It was sweaty.
Can I offer a public apology real quick before we start this show?
What, are you saying that it wasn't hot on Friday?
It was a perfect day on Friday. It's like 70 degrees outside.
5% humidity on Friday.
Friday was good.
Yeah,
Friday was
felt
good. Friday was
like weak sauce.
Yeah. Friday was not great.
Friday was good.
No, Friday was good.
Yeah, Friday evening.
Did you walk
was
outside
good.
today?
Saturday was not great.
Saturday was awful. I was at the City game on Saturday night. They won. They were up a man for 75 minutes and failed to score for 65 of those minutes.
Sounds like
In fact, failed to put a shot on goal.
Sounds like good vibes.
65 minutes.
It wasn't a great first half for them.
It was awful.
Sounds like great vibes at the City SC
But they did
game.
find a way to win.
Unlike the Cardinals.
Yeah. Cardinals not so much. And yesterday, my God, if any of you guys were out there, I saw Jeff Jones tweeted out it was the smallest crowd for a weekend game at Busch Stadium in Busch 3.
Makes sense.
History. I can't believe they had more than 10 people that went to that game.
Yeah, let me issue a public apology before we get deep into this one. Sonny Gray, I apologize to you for being so cruel every time you asked to be pulled in July and August. Now I understand why.
I went on my run last night, Alex. I'm talking like late at night. My eyes, under my eyes, it's like legitimately sore right now from all the sweat just like pooling around my eyes. So anyways.
Anywhere else that's sweat pooled that's a little sore?
No, I've got this new thing called Body Glide. It's not new, but it's new for me.
All right, let's get to the Cardinals. I don't need to know about your Body Glide.
So you just rub it basically all over your body.
The areas that chafe, T-Bone, so you avoid the chafing.
So anyways, we're talking about all of this because the Cardinals are not good. The chickens have come home to roost. Whatever your line is, your turn of phrase.
Never heard that before.
It's not good. You haven't heard that?
I've never heard that before.
No, I've heard that one before.
Chickens have come home. Well, you're from Olney. I get that.
Yeah, we have chickens.
I
Good old
know.
Blue Springs, Missouri.
I guess, man. Growing up in Jefferson County, I guess we don't have a lot of.
You haven't.
We don't have a lot of chickens.
There.
No, we don't have a lot of chickens there.
When you lose 2 out of 3 against the lowly Cincinnati Reds,
is that worse than the Angels? One of the worst teams in Major League Baseball?
Fair point.
I mean, backing it up with the Angels was probably the low point, but at least the Reds have, like, really good pitching that you can back yourself behind. We said that Joe Adell was
They don't, though. They don't.
I mean,
the guy you lost to on Friday night, that guy's terrible.
Yeah.
Like, truly awful. And you had 2 hits the entire game.
Cards were pretty quiet against Louder. I worked on that Friday because you didn't like the silence one.
I didn't like that one either.
I thought that one was better.
Look, man,
But Hunter Green was really good.
BK, Body Glide is amazing. Look into it, Alex. It's true.
Gross. No,
It's
I don't have a
unbelievable.
chafing problem because I don't run when it's 120 degrees outside.
I didn't either
Yeah, I don't
until the
run,
last
period.
like 3 weeks. It's crazy. So the thing that's frustrating about all of that, not even frustrating, just disappointing, I think is probably the better way to phrase it. The offense is what carried you for so long this year, and it's been terrible for the last few weeks. The starting pitching has been their biggest issue. It's been really good the last 2 weeks. I looked into this yesterday. Over the last 7 games, the Cardinals starters have gone a combined 42 innings and have allowed 13 earned runs. That's good enough to win you these games. And they're 2-5 over this stretch against the Reds, the Angels, and for one game, the Diamondbacks. Like, that's unacceptable. You can't have that when you're starting pitching, which, again, has been the weakness of this team and does not deserve a ton of credit for what they've done so far this season. They've been really good. They've been more than good enough to be able to win these games, but your bullpen's been awful. You're playing a man down right now in the bullpen because you want to have Dobbins up here, which fine, whatever, it is what it is. And your offense has just gone so unbelievably cold. You look at what Walker, Herrera, and Burleson have done. They're not getting the job done up until literally this weekend when Herrera finally turned it on again. But, Alex, your point on the whole home run derby thing, I guess it was real.
Well, I mean, he's had hits. He's not hitting home runs, but he's had hits. But look, this one is simple to me. I mean, your offense is just, I think you use this phrase a lot, BK. They've turned back into a pumpkin. Like, and it sucks because, I watched Friday because I was really interested to see what they'd look like after that Angels series. Plus, you're back home, which I think is an important thing. Even though I know they were home for the Diamondbacks, this was the series being home Friday night. I know they were kind of celebrating Jordan Walker in that one. To get one hit in that game against the Reds, and Blaze Jordan was the guy to get that hit for you. Like,
it was 2, to be fair. They had 2 hits in the game.
1 against the starter.
1 when Chip Carey and BT were basically like shouting from their broadcast booth for people to start yelling for, somebody say there's a no-hitter going on. That was problematic.
Well,
so
it worked, didn't it?
I think it did, actually. I think there was a hit right after it, maybe. I just... This has nothing to do with the bottom of the order like we talked about at the beginning of the season when none of the guys were hitting. This has everything to do with Walker's not hitting home runs, Herrera's not hitting for power, Burley's not hitting for power, and Weatherholt's not hitting for power. Like, your best 4 pieces that we talked so much about and how we got so excited about what the future was going to look like, they turned back into a pumpkin. And it sucks at this point of the season because you had all of that excitement following the home run derby, and then it just completely went flat against 3 teams that you arguably should have beaten if we were going to keep having these conversations. So, like, this to me was just the tombstone writing RIP on it. I don't think you come back from that, losing to the Diamondbacks, the Angels, and the Reds.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely defined as sellers at this point, even though they're only like a game and a half out of the wild card. I mean, there's just nothing for them to put their hat on right now. Like, I know BK said the starting pitching's been good here of late. I'm not buying that that's going to sustain, right? The bullpen's been a problem all year outside of the month of May. The month of May, the bullpen was good, but prior to that, the underbelly of it, we were talking about constantly. Now we're talking about high leverage and the underbelly not being good enough for them. And offensively, I thought this would be the one piece they'd be able to kind of hang their hat on, and even that is just not the case. You're not getting anything from the bottom of the order, which is to be expected, but now your 3 best hitters have gone cold. And now that they are going cold and everything else is going wrong, they're spiraling out of control, and you're seeing that since really post-All-Star break.
From Gary Summit Grey Goose Guzzler. My God.
Thanks.
Yeah, we need a shorter name.
How does Ollie use Swanson in a close game? Twice in the last 4 games he's done it. You put him in with the game on the line. Terrible managing. Because what are you going to do?
You wanted Dobbins up here.
I mean, what are you going to do? Like,
O'Brien was sick yesterday, so he's not available.
Yeah.
And now you're down to Swanson and Brule in the top of the 10th inning. I mean, what you learned after you didn't win it in the bottom of the 9th is, crap, we lost this game.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
And beyond that, like, I've been advocating for them to bring up
Motts.
Bryson Motts.
He has one bad outing, you won't remember his name anymore.
He was awful
Did this
the other
in the
day,
office.
too. And they have Ryan Fernandez, who I had seen something yesterday. He's apparently been better down at AAA. I mean, I guess he's also got a walk problem down there. So, I don't know. You just don't have good options. You're light in the pen. Jojo Romero went down to the injured list because of this appendectomy issue. And since then, you're basically a man down. You could feel it. I think this speaks to how light they are on pitching right now. And part of why they have been managing, I believe, scared for the entirety of the season. Because they know if we lose one high leverage arm, we're screwed. Like, that's it. It's game over from there. And that's what happened. They lost Jojo Romero, and it's game over. If they would have lost one of their starting pitchers, I don't think they necessarily would have been in the same spot, but it's possible. We haven't seen it for the entirety of the year because they've been so good at keeping these guys healthy. So I think that's just where the team is in 2026. I thought maybe there was a little bit more there. I was wrong. And what we are now witnessing is what it looks like when, you've got a light team that was going into a rebuild season. They just don't have what it takes to be able to make a full 162 run at this thing. They had what it took to go through a run for 90 games. They were a 90-game team, and you've got to be a team that can make it through 162 if you're going to make it to the postseason.
And frankly, to being a 90-win team or a 90-game team, I should correct myself, in the first year of a rebuild, that's impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because typically rebuild teams are about a 20-game team. And then they just completely, maybe. But, I mean, to get what you got. And
there have been seasons recently where the Cardinals were not even a 35-game team. They got 36 games into the season, or 34 games into the season. They were 10-24.
Yeah.
Season was over. There was no convincing yourself otherwise. unless you were the former Astros guy. God, why am I blanking on his name? Astros catcher
Brad Ausmus,
who came on here and said, well, they've got the pitching, and we all looked around and we're like, I don't think so, man.
Yeah. He didn't see Fetty as much as we saw Eric Fetty. But
that was the Michaelis season.
Well, that one too. I mean, this is by no means me, kicking dirt all over the Cardinals at this point. I mean, to be able to get 90 games out of this to where it's been enjoyable and something to dream on, that's important. And it's important to start your rebuild with a season like this because, one, now you know that, look, you wear out. You're only a 90-game team, and you're going to have to really readdress some of the assets that you have in your system in terms of making sure your bullpen's in a better spot, developing guys in the minor league system to the more effectiveness. And I do think there's some learning experiences from the front office as well with some of their decisions. But this is by no means a bad thing. I still think it was a good thing for the Cardinals. But now you finally got your answer, and now you can start actually looking at doing the job that you're going to have to accomplish to keep this rebuild going in the proper direction, and that's selling off assets and getting good things in return.
Yeah, to BK's point on just the trickle-down effect of the JoJo Romero injury, that's one guy that they've lost, and you've felt that impact. Milwaukee's lost 7 guys to the IL, and they are chugging along. I mean, that's where you need to get to as an organization is when you lose guys. One, that allows you of trusting your depth means you don't have to manage scared, which I agree with to BK's point. I think they've done that for the last 2 years, and I think that's fair based on the way that their pitching depth is held up. But that's the way that you need to get to is where when you lose guys, you've got that next man up and you don't feel like you lose a significant step. Imagine if the Cardinals had lost 7 pitchers this year.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I can't imagine what this organization would look like if that were to happen.
Dude, imagine.
They'd be a 10-game team.
And just think about the other problem is, I mean, think about the offseason, what they'd have to do with their 40-man. I mean, it'd be a disaster. Like, Tim Kent's would have to be DFA'd right now.
Or he'd be up here.
Yeah, one of the two, right? Like he probably would have gotten the call first, and they'd be like, all right, let's see what it looks like. And then after a couple of days of it looking like it has the entire time that he's been down at AAA, or even when he was on the rehab stint, like he probably would have been DFA'd because they'd have to make room for somebody that can actually get the job done. They'd go to like the independent league to find guys, or they'd go to the waiver wire to sign guys like what they just did over the weekend, where somebody is now reporting down to Palm Beach because he's probably going to be taking over in the bullpen whenever they decide to make some of these moves that are coming.
Or they'd be making trades like the Cubs did with the Mets of just getting a guy who's terrible and being like, hey, we'll take you.
100%. I mean, the Brewers have been doing some of that, right?
Well,
where they're just grabbing guys and saying, all right, let's see if this one works.
Yeah, but they turned that crap into
DFA
gold.
and they go it again.
Yeah, like they acquired McCullers, who hadn't been good from the Astros.
And then they just DFA'd him, I think.
Yeah.
I think they literally got him for like a week, which is not surprising. But they just, hey, we need a couple innings. Let's go ahead and grab him. We'll give up a couple bucks here, like grab you guys a 6-pack of beer and we'll go our separate ways.
See what we can get out of you.
Cardinals, they're not there yet. They do not have the depth when it comes to pitching that they're going to need whenever they are a contender again. All right, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. You can check us out on YouTube, as always, at youtube.com/101ESPNSTL. Coming up next, the same thing that boosted the Cardinals offense is what's exposing them today. I've got some numbers, Alex, on this 12-game stretch that the Cardinals just went through from the offense. It's up there with the worst 12-game stretches by the Cardinals offense in the last 15 years. We'll get into that next year on 101 ESPN. I did some research, Alex. This Cardinals offense has been quite bad recently.
Well, you know what that means. We're going to have a segment where BK gives you numbers.
That's right.
We need an open.
Jordan
and then
Walker.
the end of it, nerd.
We should have something.
We need an open. T-Bone, get to your production magic.
All right.
But we need a nerd at the end of it.
We also need a name for it.
BK's fun with numbers.
Something along those lines. That's not catchy enough, but BK's boredom.
No, it's not catchy enough. I don't like
that
it.
doesn't do it.
I don't like it.
BK bores the audience. Here we go. So Jordan Walker in his last 13 games, 0 home runs. His last home run was on July 9th.
Somebody said something about that at the home run derby, right?
Thanks, man.
Ivan
No,
Herrera,
thank you,
prior
Jordan.
to yesterday, had 0 home runs in his last 15 games. Alec Burleson, had 13 games, 0 home runs. Last home run was July 8th before the one yesterday. So it's not going well for the offense, to put it
T-Bone's
lightly.
not having fun.
No slug.
If you go back to July the 10th, so you're talking about a 16-day stretch of playing baseball, the Cardinals in that stretch are batting .210 as a team. They are slugging .289 as a team. They have the worst OPS plus in Major League Baseball over that span. They had a total of 5 home runs in those 12 games.
Oh,
as a team, 5 home runs in 12 games.
Yeah, nobody's going to have fun with that.
It is the first time that the Cardinals had 5 or fewer home runs in any 12-game stretch outside of the month of April, when weather impacts things because it's colder. So in a 12-game stretch outside of the month of April since 2015. Guys, baseball changed in 2016. That's when everything started to modernize. That's where baseball adopted T-Bone's slug baby slug mentality. The strikeouts have exploded over the last decade. 2015 is like pre-Moneyball era, is what I'll call it. That was the year that the Royals won the World Series by, dink and dunk type of an offense, putting the ball in play, running like hell, all that stuff. And then everything changed the next year as the Cubs won the World Series. In their last 12 games, they had a .560 OPS. Again, that's as a team. The entire team basically became Pedro Paez.
Oh.
Why'd you have to say that, man?
It's the worst for any 12-game stretch since June of 2021. You guys remember June of 2021, how that felt?
I do, yeah.
That was the month where the
That was
Cardinals collapsed, and they had a terrible bullpen, and the offense was awful. Before that, you have to go all the way back to that same stretch that I mentioned previously, where they had 5 or fewer home runs in July of
I must
2015.
have tried to bury those pains because I don't remember it as much.
So June of 21?
Yeah, I don't remember it as
so
much.
bad.
Oh, dude,
Maybe it's because Payne followed it so much in 24 and
that was
25.
Wade LeBlanc. They eventually at the deadline trade for John Lester and Jay Happ.
But
They
at
go on that
point
17-game winning
in
streak.
June, they were like starting Seamart, who couldn't get anybody out. John Gant was walking
I was going
the
to say
world.
that had to have
Ponce
been
de Leon.
that was pre-Lester though, because I felt like Lester gave us a little bit more excitement.
That's what I'm saying. They went through June, and because of that,
maybe I enjoyed
they
Lester
had to
so much.
sign Wade LeBlanc, and then at the trade deadline, they traded for.
Yeah,
This was when you were trying to convince us that the John Gant experience could continue.
Yeah.
that could have continued.
No wonder why you tried to get rid of it.
That could have continued. I
didn't
remember
remember the offense being bad, mostly because I just remember watching the pitching walk the world.
Yep. And that was the year that everything went south for them. In that season, their bullpen, by the way, included Gallegos, who was really good that year. But beyond that, it was the Genesis Cabrera experience. You had TJ McFarland down the stretch, who actually really helped
save the
them.
bullpen.
Ponce de Leon, Cody Whitley, Junior Fernandez.
I don't even remember Whitley.
Tyler Webb had a 13 ERA that year.
Former member of the Circle of
I was
Trust,
going to
by
say,
the
I
way.
think we put him in the Circle of Trust earlier
Good
that
point.
season.
Seth Elledge, you guys remember him?
Barely.
He was here. It was really bad that year.
Hard out there.
Justin Miller, I have zero recollection of him pitching for the St. Louis
I
Cardinals. but he
remember
was here too.
Andrew Miller.
So anyways, moral of the story, Alex. This is the worst stretch of Cardinals offense outside of the month of April,
Yeah.
basically in the last decade. And that's how you end up with a 12-game stretch that takes you from legitimate wild card contention to a pretty clear-cut seller in my eyes at this year's trade deadline. It's not just what the bullpen's done. And as we've mentioned, in the last 7 games, your rotation has been quite good. It's what the offense is doing as well. And we said all along, if you're going to be better than people expect, it's going to have to be the offense that carries you, the same thing that carried you for about 70, 80 games, is the same thing that's ultimately ending their season over the last 12.
Yeah. By the way, Polo just texted and said Luis Garcia from 2021.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, down the stretch.
He was good, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was
so
very
shout
good.
out to him. And shout out
That
to
was the second half, though. Those guys that we're bringing up here that were good, like John Lester, Jay Happ, T-Bone's guy Wade LeBlanc. Those guys were all after.
Yeah, but see,
June.
I think what happened for me is somebody did the Men in Black flash because I don't remember pre all of this.
Someone please make me forget what's going on now.
I blanked out on this, but I mean, you're right. Like every player that you just went through and pointed out is the player that we were talking about of why you guys were saying the Cardinals need to push their chips in because this can't last for as long as we think it is. It's why we said, yeah, the Cardinals legitimately can be a team that pushes for the playoffs because when you looked around the other teams, nobody had what the Cardinals had in terms of a 1-2 punch of Weatherholt and Walker, Burleson, who was one of the best left-handed hitters at the time, Herrera, who was going through slumps and still getting on base. You were looking at that saying all of these guys have power. All of these guys have the ability to get on base. They play into the style that the Cardinals want to play. Yes, they have to be perfect, but they're getting away with it and they're doing it, and you have to get excited about it. All of that just disappeared. And I don't know if it's just what happens when the summer kicks in, because we asked BT about this on Friday, and it's like, look, yeah, a lot of these guys are probably mentally dealing with, man, I'm so bad right now. How do I get out of this? But you've got deep into the season. You've got the summer, which can play a factor into it. And you have the ballpark that they play in. Mm-hmm. You just can't hit home runs at Busch Stadium. So all of these factors turn into you don't have your top four, so you turn to guys like Blaze Jordan and Lars Nootbaar and Jimmy Crooks and all of them to help out. The problem is that's what they've done in the past, where your big guys aren't doing it, and so you turn to the secondary pieces, and that's a big load for those guys to carry.
And you just don't have anything else that can carry you.
Exactly.
The rotation's been fine, but you don't have pitching overall to be able to make it work. Like, even when these guys in your rotation, they've been getting even pretty deep into games. I mean, they're going 6 innings with regularity. And it's not enough because in the final 3 innings of these games,
your bullpen collapses.
Your bullpen gives up 2 or 3 runs. And I mean, that's not great, obviously, but that shouldn't kill you. But it is. It's completely killing them because your starter gives up, 2 over 6, bullpen gives up 2 more, and your offense is scoring 1 or 2, and you're done. It's game over. So if you want to be like silver lining here, if you're somebody that still believes in the Cardinals, God bless you. I don't know how you're doing it now at this point, but it's that the rest of the National League also stinks right now. All these teams are struggling, man. The Marlins are 0 coming out of the break. 0-9 out of the break. They've been even worse than you. I think they've lost 12 consecutive games at this point. The Pirates are 4-5. Phillies, prior to last night where they did get a win, were 2-6. Everybody's just come out of the break and they're not playing at a high level. Cardinals 3-7 since the All-Star break. You're only 1.5 games back right now. You're still technically in it because you were playing at a pretty high level for the first 90 or so games of the regular season. But I don't believe, just because of what we've seen over the last 2 to 3 weeks, what this team is, I don't think they're capable of truly getting back into this thing in a meaneful way.
Yeah, and for the longest time this season, sorry to cut you off, T-Bone, the longest time this season, it's been every time I've started that conversation where I've had the feeling of, hey, this is it. This is where it falls apart. Cardinals have done an incredible job of kind of swatting that back right at you and saying, no, we're still alive. But now you can't do it because your bullpen.
That's a great point. And sorry, T-Bone, my turn to cut you off here.
Sit back there.
Every time we have said, hey, the Cardinals, this might be the spot where it goes sideways, they've had a response.
Yeah.
This is the first time they haven't.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't think there is
for a while now, to be fair.
And I don't think there is a response this time around. Like, they might be good enough the rest of the way to be 500. That's possible. They win, 82, 83, 84 games.
Yeah.
I don't think that's enough to get you into the postseason, and it's certainly not enough to avoid selling at the trade deadline. But this is the spot where, the season was on the brink. We all knew it coming out of the break, and they didn't have the response for the first time. It's basically, hey, 4th of July happened, you're 47-39, and since then, you've been one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball. Yeah. And this was the stretch that we all knew it was possible in, because you played Milwaukee those 5 games in 4 days. You played against Atlanta, and then you come out of the break and you had some tough series, including against Arizona for 4 games.
Yeah,
and then you allow that to happen against the Angels and the Reds. All right, good night. That's it.
The brand that they have played all season, it's an exhausting brand to play, I have to imagine, to where you have to be perfect. You have to be able to everything click, but also come from behind an awful lot. And I do imagine exhaustion sets in at some point, and that's just kind of where you've gotten to with this Cardinals team. And, maybe they pull themselves back up post-deadline once you get to that final month of the season. But where you're at right now, it just doesn't feel like there's any coming back from him.
Yeah, they haven't had.
Turn.
Thank you.
Hold on, I got one.
They haven't had that kind of response we saw since like mid-June, early June. Like every time we would say that, and I've brought this up before, we refer back to the Seattle series, right? They get swept at home by Seattle, but they played fairly well, and then they went on a run of winning 3 or 4 series in a row. They haven't had that since then, right?
I disagree.
Now, they've avoided the snowball, but I haven't seen them have that kind of response where they go on a little bit of a mini run.
They lost 4 in a row against Arizona and Miami, and then responded by winning 5 of their next 6. I do think they responded. They beat Atlanta and Chicago.
Yeah, I agree with that because I think that's where I was ready to say I'm done with them until you got to the Royals series, and then the Royals was the one for me where I was like, okay.
And that was the Royal series happened. They lose 4 in a row against Arizona and Miami. I think they responded to that. They beat Miami, and then they won 2 out of 3 against Atlanta. We thought that was the spot where it goes sideways because Atlanta was finally playing some better ball at that point. They go to Chicago, and we've all seen what happens at Wrigley, and that was the 4th of July weekend where we're like, okay, well, good luck. Your pitching's in a bad spot. You're not going to be able to do this. They win the first 2 games of the series there, and I remember we got back in on Monday. I was like, all right, man, I mean, we'll see what happens against Milwaukee. And then Milwaukee happened. It was over.
Well, and Atlanta was the team that I was judging them more against than it was, although the Cubs were in there. Who did they play in between Atlanta and the Cubs? Was that Milwaukee?
So I think you're misremembering the timeline here. So they go to Kansas City. Their pitching was a disaster, right?
Right.
And then after the Kansas City trip, they come back home. They lose 2 out of 3 against Arizona. Then they play Miami, lose 2 out of 3 against Miami. And after that, they go on the road to Atlanta. And that was the beginning of that stretch where we were talking about, all right, to finish out the first half, you've got Atlanta, Chicago, Milwaukee, and then Atlanta again. I think you're thinking of the second Atlanta series.
Well, no, I'm thinking of both Atlanta because I was forgetting who the 5 games were against the Milwaukee Brewers. Because yes, I was out on the Royals, but what I'm saying is I got back in when I saw the 2 versus the Braves because I was judging them versus the Braves because that was the team realistically you were going to be fighting with around the wild
100%.
card with the Cubs. So I felt like I was back in with that because the Brewers I didn't care as much about. It was Atlanta, the Cubs, and Atlanta, and they won all 3 of those series. And so that's where I was like, oh, okay, fine. And then Jordan Walker happened at the home run derby, and it was like, oh, okay, all on board with it once again.
Yeah, and then in the second half,
This is one, though, that you have your fix should have been against the Reds. Now, maybe some people will buy back in.
You shouldn't have lost 2 out of 3.
Well, but the Angels for me is like what the Royals were. Where it was like, that's it.
They should have a winning record at this point.
Yep.
Because, you look back at that Arizona series, and it's one thing to say, well, okay, they lost 2 or 3 to Arizona. Arizona's a team you're fighting with. They were up 7-0 on Sunday.
They should have won that Sunday game. And then the Monday game, they should have won as well.
Exactly. And then you lose 2 or 3 to the Angels, which should have been your bounce-back series. We can kind of do whatever with the one game against Arizona at home.
Sure.
And then you got to take 2 or 3 against the Saints.
You should have won yesterday.
Exactly. This should be a team that had that, if you want to call it bounce back, or just avoided this lapse.
And if we're being real, I think they probably would have won all 3 of those games had they had JoJo Romero. There's a really good chance they find a way to win that game against Arizona where you're up 7-0. Yesterday, I think they probably win. They shut that thing down with a bullpen. Because then it doesn't matter as much that you don't have Riley O'Brien because now you've got another leverage reliever thrown into the mix. And the game against, what's the other one? L.A. I think you probably end up winning that one as well. But because they don't have JoJo Romero, and this goes back to our point in the first segment, that one injury should not have this kind of effect. This is not me saying they're a better team than we. No, they should be able to overcome one bullpen arm, but they can't because that's where they're at right now as a team. And frankly, as an organization, they were so behind on the pitching development pipeline that they don't have guys ready for that spot right now, or at least they don't believe they do. Whether you do or not, they clearly don't. Otherwise, they would have called them up to be able to help them right now. And now, because they didn't have JoJo Romero, you lose those 3 games. If you had won them, you're 56-49. You're back into a playoff spot, and you're now a game back of Philly.
Yeah.
Much less out of the playoff spot today. You're in it.
Lying.
Yeah. I mean, if you win those 3 games, you are half a game back of the Philadelphia Phillies for the second wild card spot. And you're going into the series against the Cubs, where if you're able to sweep them, you're ahead of the Cubs, man. Like that is how much 1 week of bad baseball and one injury was able to dismantle the Cardinal season this year. It was really that simple. It sucks, man.
JoJo for team MVP.
Obviously.
I'm honestly, it doesn't feel this way right now, but Ollie Marmol for team MVP. The fact that he's been able to keep this thing on the rails
what we
as
said
long
last
as he
year
has
about him.
with the injuries. Now, whether you think that's luck or if you think that's them finding a way to keep all of these arms healthy, it's probably a little bit of both. And the fact that it was an appendectomy, that was the thing that set them sideways. It was a couple of twisted ankles, ball going off Dustin May's ankle.
The one thing we couldn't fight off, and that's internal pain and suffrage. An appendectomy is what keeps them out.
All right, coming up in 15 minutes, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. But next, Alex, are the Blues about to go all in for a top six forward? We'll talk about it next here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario back with you to talk about my friends over at Classic Air Care Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, and Electricity. And I don't know about you, but after this last couple of days, I'm very glad I've had Classic Air Care to make sure that my HVAC system is getting me through this type of heat. And at this time of the year, you have an older unit, you're just praying you can make it through. But look, sometimes those older units don't make it through for you. And what do you do when that happens? Well, you call up a company that, one, has been making people comfortable in doing this since 1926, but two, a company that will get back to you within 24 hours and have somebody out to resolve the problem. And that's because of their 5-star customer service, their thousands of 5-star reviews because of this. They've got over 100 vans out on the road, which means they're going to get back to you and they're going to get somebody at your house to take care of that issue. And the best part about it is you've got technicians doing this for 30 plus years. They come out, they don't just fix the problem and leave. They fix the problem, explain how it happened and how you can avoid it happening again to you in the future. So you're getting real answers from people that have been doing this for 30 plus years. It's why I've been using them since 2016 at my homes. It's why my dad's been using them for 30 plus years. So call them today or schedule online. Just do me a favor and tell them Alex Ferrario sent you. Classic Air Care and classicaircare.com.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals fell to the Reds yesterday 5-3 as they dropped 2 of 3 at home against Cincinnati. Tonight, they start a 4-game set with the Chicago Cubs. 6:45 will be first pitch. David Peterson will be on the mound for Chicago. Matthew Liberatore gets the start for St. Louis. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
All right, Alex, a Russian media outlet is saying that Kirill Marchenko is between 2 teams to potentially trade for him. If you're not familiar with Marchenko, he is a forward for the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Columbus Blue Jackets have certainly had an offseason. I wouldn't call it a good one.
Hasn't been very good at all.
But it has certainly been eventful. There's been a lot of buzz about, hey, could this be the Blues that are one of the teams that are potentially in on him? There's nothing that has, I want to make this very clear. There is nothing that specifically states the Blues are one of the teams that are potentially in on Marchenko.
Correct.
There's also been some question on if he's even actually going to get traded. So that needs to be set out front. But if we want to play into the speculation game, which welcome to 2026 is what we do, we can go ahead and do that, Alex, because we have brought this guy's name up in the past. He fits with their timeline. He's 26 years old. He's been a consistent 20 to 30 goal scorer since entering the NHL, and he's up for a contract. He's an RFA. I think he makes all the sense in the world for the Blues in a theoretical sense. Now, this would not be in theory. This would be in reality, and in reality, you have to trade something for him, probably multiple somethings, and probably some real, legit, tangible assets. So I want to get your thoughts on this, Alex. What was your impression when you saw the report, the speculation, whatever you want to call it, off of the weekend? And do you think he makes sense for the Blues as a potential trade target?
Well, my reaction was, and I texted you guys this immediately, saying the Blues need to go after this guy because, to me, this is the prototypical player that the Blues are searching for. A guy that has scored 30 goals in the National Hockey League. He's a guy that can put up 70-plus points. He's somebody that shoots the puck a hell of a lot. He's a physical specimen who's not afraid to go to the front of the net. He helps your power play. He helps your penalty kill. He eats a ton of minutes, and he's 25 years old, about to get paid as a restricted free agent. So, to me, I saw this, and I'm being like, look, if the Blues went after Brady Tkachuk, if they went after Jason Robertson, if they were in the conversation for Matthew Nyes, then this is the guy that you're also in the conversation for because he matches what you're trying to accomplish. Now, the reality of trying to trade for him is the part that I don't think people want to really hear because you're talking multiple NHL pieces plus top prospects to get this player in, on top of you probably needing to pay him north of $9 million for a long-term contract extension. Like Dorofiev just signed $11 million contract with the Rangers. You're probably looking at somewhere close to $11 million if you get this guy in-house. But this, to me, is adding a top-line player and playing him on your second line on your roster because you've already got Snuggerud and Holloway. You bring in a Marchenko, your top 6 is set for the next 6 years. Marchenko, McTavish, McMichael, Holloway, Snuggerud, Thomas. And that's the roster you're rolling with while you have to develop behind them and continue to grow some of these assets. So the hard part for the Blues is, do you have the pieces that outbid other teams? Because the reports of Montreal and Utah and Chicago being teams that have called about him, they've got better prospects in their system, and you have to imagine if you're Columbus, you know you're headed for another rebuild, so you want young guys rather than NHL guys.
But do you want prospects or do you want guys that are ready to play at the NHL level?
You'd prefer guys ready to play at the NHL level, but if you can get guys who are still on entry-level contracts that have the upside of being stars in the NHL, like, for example, Montreal's got that Michael Hayes we talked about at the deadline with Thomas. Utah's got Tij Aginla or that Caleb Denoyer. If those teams are offering up those pieces versus you offering up, let's say, Adam Jiricek and Justin Carbonneau or Jake Neighbors, I think they're going to lean towards those pieces because they've got higher upside. But comes down to who that GM wants to deal with, and it comes down to, in my opinion, if Marchenko's going to re-sign with that team.
No doubt. There's all of those different... There's a lot that's in play here. Right? There are a lot of different factors that go into this. I don't know how much appetite they have for a true rebuild in Columbus at this point. Man, they've been playing that game for, what, a decade?
Yeah, and a true rebuild means Fantilli's going to be gone soon, too.
And at a certain point in time, you've got to get NHL-level players. So maybe that is a Jake Neighbors. Maybe that is an Otto Stenberg. Maybe that is, I don't know, a Theo Lindstein or a Logan Mailloux. That instead of going out and getting the upside play in Adam Jiricek, maybe they take somebody that's a little more ready to go right now in Logan Mailloux, for example. And the Blues say, you know what? Mailloux's out. We'll go ahead and get Jiricek on the third pair defensively. Cool. We've got Parayko and Carlo that can take the top 4 minutes for us.
Yeah.
I don't know what the package would ultimately look like, but I think those are the kinds of names that you would potentially hear being thrown around. Maybe it's like first-round pick, plus
probably multiple first-round picks.
So let's just call it one, though, for now. Okay. First-round pick, Jake Neighbors, and Logan Mailloux. If you're the Blues, and that's the asking price, and I'm just throwing that out there just because it's a forward, a defenseman, both at the NHL level, plus a first-round pick. It's kind of the idea of what you see in trades like this. Is that too much for you?
No.
Or are you willing to go to those lengths to get this kind of a player into your top 6?
I'm willing to go to those lengths. I think we had this conversation before the draft when we were talking Stenberg, and somebody said Jiricek, and I said I'm not doing Jiricek for Stenberg because to me that you're taking a what if for a guy that's in your system already, and Stenberg looks like he's going to be. I would go that length for this, and I love Jake Neighbors. I think he's a perfect piece for your team. You are getting a guy that offensively is an upgrade over Jake Neighbors. I mean, this is a guy that's scored 30. You know he can do it in the NHL consistently. And it's also a guy that fits the timeline for you. The other question I think you have to ask is, do you want to go that length and pay him $10 million?
What if it's Jiricek, Neighbors, and a first?
Yeah, I would do it.
Damn.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot.
It is a ton. But I think this guy's got 40-plus goal potential in him.
Wow.
And I mean, you're putting that on your second line, or you're moving a Snuggerud or a Holloway to your second line. I don't want to give up both of those pieces. I'd like to try and negotiate off of one of them if I could. But, man, if you can lock up Marchenko long-term, to me, you're solidifying your top 6 as a team that could win sooner rather than later.
Let me ask this for you guys. Do you think Jiricek is your best asset defensively?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the most valuable trade chip that you could give up.
Because you're not going to give up Broberg.
What about on the forward group? Who do you think is your most realistic? So it's not Snuggerud, not Thomas, not Holloway. You're not giving up those guys. But your most realistic, valuable trade asset from a forward perspective is who?
I would say Neighbors or Carbonneau.
That's what I was thinking, too. One of those two.
And it comes down to what the team wants. Do we need more strength? Because I will say with Columbus, like they brought in Nichushkin. They've got power forwards. They need guys who can score. I don't know what their desire would be, but does a team want...
Let's say it's Neighbors. Let's say they really want to go out and get a guy. I mean, Neighbors...
one or the other.
There's almost no question about him, right? Like, you know what he is. You know how he is as a player. He's a great dude. Like, you could add him to your locker room, and tomorrow he's ready to go.
Yeah.
Neighbors, Jiricek, and a first, T-Bone. Is that something that's too much in your mind?
It's too much for me. I'm not willing to give up Jiricek. Now, I'm willing to listen on Neighbors. I'm willing to listen on even Carbonneau because I like the depth that they've already got at that winger position. Jiricek, I wouldn't do. I mean, as much as the Blues talk about him, and, you know, I'm one that would typically say take what a team says for a grain of salt, but I think they see something special in Jiricek. I mean, we've heard, like, Petro comps, right? Mm-hmm. I wouldn't trade Petro for a 30-goal scorer on the wing. I want defense is the way that this team should probably be building. So I would be keeping Jiricek. That's where I draw the line. If they say it is a must that Jiricek has to be in this deal to make it work for Marchenko, I'm saying, all right, well, then it just isn't going to work for us.
I mean, I totally get that. I mean, I'm torn with it. I would trade him, and it's just because I feel like I've got good defense right now in my system with Mailloux and Lindstein and Broberg as the core pieces moving forward with it. I don't feel great without having Jiricek, but my hope is if the Blues can continue to draft and develop, or you go out there and you find a way to bring in another younger defenseman at some point with more trade assets. I just like... the biggest concern for us about this team is their secondary scoring. If you bring in Marchenko, I am no longer concerned about secondary scoring.
For this year, my biggest concern long-term might still be their defensive core if you don't have Jiricek.
Yeah, but we don't know what Jiricek is.
But
I mean, we're going off of the hype with him right now.
Sure, But if you remove even the hype from the equation, you have basically nothing right now, especially on the right side behind Logan Mailloux.
I mean, you got Parayko for 5 more years.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's only 3 more years. Yeah, it's 3 more. And I don't know how he's going to age. He's 33 years old, man. That's not a like future core piece of your defense at this point. So if I'm trying to think about what's 27, 28, 29 look like as we're hoping to really go on a run here with Marchenko, I have to have a defensive core in place. We've seen what this looks like when you don't, and we've seen how incredibly difficult it is to go out there and find them. Whether that's a guy that you're drafting in the top 10 or somebody that you're trading for, they are incredibly expensive. They do not hit the free agent market. And to trade for a legit big-time defenseman, I mean, you're giving up even more than what we're talking about right now for a guy like Marchenko. So that would make me really nervous. I'd probably say no on Jiricek. Mailloux is the one that I would really consider, though, because I think they like Mailloux. I think he's going to be a good defenseman at the NHL level. I'm not sure he's special. And based upon the way that they talk about Jiricek, there's at least the potential of him being special long-term. And I think I would be more likely to bet on that and to give up Logan Mailloux. And if that means I have to give up a little bit more in terms of draft capital or another prospect or something, I'd be more willing to do that. But Neighbors is not the piece. I think for a lot of Blues fans, Neighbors would be the piece that would stop them. It wouldn't be for me because I'm getting a replacement for him in this deal in terms of the production. The defensive core pieces of what you're having to give up, that's what would make me really hesitant. Yeah. And I think Jiricek is the spot where I would stop there.
I mean, I totally get it if that's where people's at. And I mean, you know where I've been with Jiricek. I have not wanted to move him, and I've nixed the deal when it came to Stenberg. I just think Marchenko is a special one that fits into what you're trying to accomplish. And yes, you need defense, but I feel like I can continue to try and develop the D. But if my offense is set, that's a really good spot to be in.
I would add this. If you could make 2 deals and you talk to
Carolina
about Nikishin and you're able to
That's hard because I think all of your assets are probably...
do you have the assets to make
both of them happen? Probably goes in the one to...
Maybe. I don't know what Carolina wants for him. I would imagine Carolina is going to want a replacement on the defensive side if they're getting rid of Nikishin.
Do you have anybody that could... So here's what you could potentially do here. You could trade Lindstein and Stenberg in that deal for Nikishin. I don't know how money-wise this works. I'd have to look at it. But you get Nikishin with that one, and then on this one, you trade, let's call it Mailloux, a first, and Neighbors.
Yeah, money-wise, I think we just sent out 3 entry-level contracts for 2 guys that'll make probably a combined 18 or 19 mil.
That's starting next year, and this team's in a really good spot when it comes to their cap projections for future seasons. Yeah, this year's the one that's tough.
But remember, next year they got to get Snuggerud and Hofer locked up to contracts, and we've already talked about Snuggerud might be 9 to 10, and Hofer might be 7 to 8.
Yeah, figure
that
it out.
46 goes quick, man.
That's Ryan Miller's job.
That's where you got to hope an expansion draft comes next year, and you can pluck that $8 million out. Yeah,
it's been real, man.
Yeah, we really appreciate you, man.
Yeah, I think you probably could not make that work money-wise.
And that's depleting a lot of your depth for guys that help now, and I think your team gets hurt.
Yeah, we went all in there for
what? If you want to win the Stanley Cup this year, we'd feel pretty damn good about it.
That was the one scenario where okay, maybe you could make it work. I think it's tough, man. I'm interested in Marchenko for sure. I think it would be a great ad for the Blues. It's just a matter of what you're going to have to get up.
My big thing with Marchenko too is I don't think realistically you can pull this off because I don't think you've got the assets that these 3 other teams have that realistically can pull it off. That's the part.
It is.
And that's where I'm like, hey, fine by me. I'll go back to that one. But as much as I would love it, and you know what? Maybe they don't trade him, and maybe they say, no, we're going to keep him like a dumb organization. And it's very possible. Columbus has done this before. And then you could just offer sheet Marchenko next year. You just got to go get your 2nd-round pick back.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone on BK. Questions and answers coming up next. Hey, it's BK, and it is time for you to unlock your inner champion. The place to do so is with my friends over at Victory Men's Health. Give them a call today, or better yet, go to their website, victorymenshealth.com. When you get over to the website, you'll be able to book that first appointment. It's an incredibly easy process. All you need to do is put in your name, email, phone number, tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, tell them which of their 4 great locations across the St. Louis area would be best for you to be able to go in, and then you'll be able to unlock your inner champion. At that first visit, you'll have a consultation with a licensed medical provider. They'll take all of the lab work for you, find out where all of your different levels are at, and then they'll put together a personalized plan for you to unlock your inner champion. You'll be able to learn about their testosterone optimization plans, how they can help you lose some of that unwanted weight. Maybe it's sexual health that you'd like to get help with. It's all available today at Victory Men's Health and online at victorymenshealth.com. So check them out today. Unlock your inner champion. If they can do it for me, they can certainly do it for you at Victory Men's Health and victorymenshealth.com. Three 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. Real quick before we get into some of these from the text line, T-Bone just brought it up. The Brewers have to go for it, right? Like, they've got to go as close as you can to all in this year at the deadline. We agree?
No, have you seen the National League? They could win right now.
No, they can. Yeah, they got to go all in. And if that means you got to, like, give up the farm to go get probably Scooble, or even try and get in on, like, another bat as well, which I think they probably could use. Yeah, you got to go all in if you're Milwaukee, because, like, you couldn't ask for a better year, right? Mizorowski going to win the Cy Young probably. Probably the best year he's ever going to have of his career. Bryce Terang, probably the best year he's ever going to have of his career. Churio, maybe not the best one of his career. Could be, though. Like, this is their time to go all in. And there's only one team you really got to beat in the National League, and that is the Dodgers. Now, that's an easier task said than to be done, but I think they have to push all of their chips in.
I do too, and I would go after Scooble. For how the playoffs work, if I have Scooble, Mizorowski thrown at you in 2 games, I'm pretty much guaranteed to find my way to the CS. And then when I get there, man, you're going to have to play small ball, and you're going to have to win the way that nobody wants to see it. But if I have an elite pitching rotation to lock you down, yeah, you have to.
I want to look at something real quick for the Cardinals.
They won't, but...
Yeah, no, they won't. They'll go after a back end rotation guy.
Like May.
Okay, yeah, this is what I thought. Ooh. Matt Swanson, this season, has thrown 42 innings. He's allowed 34 earned runs in those 42 innings.
Jeez.
How many earned runs do you think Jacob Mizorowski has allowed on the season?
How many innings has he thrown?
120.
He said Swanson's allowed a what? 34?
34.
I'm going to say 18.
I'll go lower, 15.
21, so a little higher. But He has 185 strikeouts and 21 earned runs, a 1.6 ERA.
Does he have more
season.
strikeouts than our bullpen combined?
Oh, it's got to be pretty close.
He might have him beat.
Yes.
I mean, he's disgusting. I mean,
Cardinals
yesterday he just
bullpen.
casually threw like 64 fastballs over 100 miles an hour. Like, let that sink in for a minute.
It's pretty crazy. So he had, like, if you go to the top 5 guys from the Cardinals bullpen, O'Brien, Brule, Soriano, JoJo, and Stanek. Those are the top 5 guys. They've had about 190 strikeouts. I would have to do more like the exact math on the season, but it's basically 1-for-1 with Mizorowski on his own. It's pretty remarkable. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. From the manager, Lou Brown. Guys, do you think the Cardinals should consider moving in the outfield walls at Busch Stadium? I think you should at least look at it this offseason. It's literally the worst home run ballpark in all of Major League Baseball this year. There is no close second. I think you have to at least look at it. I think it's now worthy of the conversation.
Yeah, I think you've got to look into it and figure out like what would be that perfect. How far do you have to come in, right? Because we've seen teams do this in the past. They're like, all right, we'll boost offense a little bit. And then they do it a little bit too much. So, yeah, I think they've got to look into it. I know they've talked about looking into it in the past. We'll see if anything changes this offseason.
I don't know how you go about getting that approved, though. Like, do you have to go to Major League Baseball, or is that just a matter of the team saying, like, hey, we want to do this?
The Cardinals can make it.
They just basically say, we're going to do this? Oh, well, yeah, why not? More home runs.
We like pitching. In
Big ourselves a big green monster and call it the big red monster.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line.
Oh, we need those
from
in left field.
The 636. Guys, why isn't anybody talking about the Braves right now? Pitching?
Yeah.
And isn't Acuna still hurt for them?
He's coming back today.
Oh, is he coming back?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, but I mean, BK's right. It's the pitching. I mean, I don't really believe in most of their staff outside of like Chris Hale. He's the one guy I trust on that staff.
Yep. If they're able to go out, like I don't think they have the assets to make this work, but if they were somehow able to add Skubal,
oh yeah,
I mean, yeah, then we could talk about them because now you've got Skubal and Sale at the front end of their rotation. But they don't. I truly do not believe that they have the farm system to be able to make a deal like that right now. Yeah. They can't supplement their pitching staff the way that they would need to in order to become, in my opinion, a true legitimate contender in October. The bullpen's fine, but it's not such that I would look at, like, if the Padres were able to get into the postseason and the offense suddenly got hot, they've got the bullpen to be interesting. The Braves can't even make up for their lack of starting pitching by their bullpen, and that's the problem. Whereas you look across the rest of the National League, there are just too many other teams that have much better pitching than them.
Yeah,
I trust the Phillies more than them. I trust the Brewers from a pitching staff more than them. And I honestly think their offense has been at least comparable this year, and the Dodgers, obviously.
Yeah, and
so that's why.
The Braves, by the way, another reminder of how quick your window can close, right? I mean, we bring them up all the time. The team that won the World Series is arguably the worst one they've had. And since then, their pitching's just gone downhill from here. Like, I mean, you look at their rotation. You guys trust Grant Holmes, Martin Perez, Bryce Elder who pitches to a ton of contact. No, I don't trust those guys when we get to October. Even if you add, like, I think they'll probably try and target Kevin Gossman. You add him up there with Sale, all right, you're 1-2 solid, but it's not great.
From the 636, guys, when are you going to talk about MLS? We've got a local squad in a playoff position. Quite the heater right now for them, and apparently you don't even think it's a big deal. I mean, me and T-Bone were both at the game on Saturday. We enjoyed it, had a good time. It was hot as hell, but it was a fun time to be had. That's pretty much my thoughts on it.
Yeah. It's a good atmosphere if you want to do something in the summer, although choosing Saturday was a little too hot for this guy.
My brother.
But and like even Saturday, and I think this was more heat related than anything. There was still a decent amount of empty seats there.
My brother-in-law got mad at me on Saturday because he's a big City fan, and he said, well, you guys don't talk enough about it. And I said, they're fighting for a playoff spot. What more would you like us to say?
Yeah, and I hate to always say this, but it's like the 10th best league in the world, you know? In Nashville, they don't talk about the Nashville Sound, the AAA affiliate.
I truly think it's great that St. Louis has a soccer team. And if you're somebody that loves soccer, I think it's wonderful that I'm not saying this sarcastically or anything like that. Like, I think it's wonderful that exists here in St. Louis, and it is an awesome experience if you want to go watch a game. We're going to spend most of our time talking about the Cardinals and the Blues because those are the teams that have the bigger audience for what we do on the radio. It's just like, you want me to be honest with you guys. That's me not blowing smoke up here, you know what. Mm-hmm. That is where the audience is, and so that is what we talk about. We try to get the greatest number of people to listen to our show. It is ultimately a business at the end of the day. We are here to try to get a ton of people to listen to us and to try to make revenue for Hubbard Radio. That's it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like it's none of us are the biggest soccer fans in the world, and frankly, the audience just isn't there quite to the same degree.
And
so that's the full explanation as to why.
It's also a difficult sport to break down game to game on radio, and there's just not a lot of transactions that you talk about the same way you talk about with the Cardinals and the Blues of moves.
It's more of a worldwide sport, where a lot of the talent is coming from leagues that we've never heard of or leagues that we've never, like their big transaction recently was a guy that's coming over from Europe, and apparently he's coming soon, I suppose, is what a report that I saw the other day. Most people here in America have never seen the guy play. So, I mean, we can talk about it whenever he gets here, and if it ends up really becoming a big deal for them. But prior to that, there's just not a whole lot to be able to get into them. All right, alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up next, Chaim Bloom has a chance to do the funniest thing possible. Again. We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Saw this earlier today, Alex. According to a report, multiple teams across Major League Baseball right now looking to add a catcher. Those teams are the Yankees. Okay, that makes sense. The Rays and the Red Sox. Those three teams. Two of those three are spots where Chaim Bloom has a history of being employed and certainly still has some connections to said spots. Chaim Bloom has a chance to do the funniest thing possible, Alex. If he makes another deal with the Boston Red Sox at this year's trade deadline to get more pitching from Boston after they've already landed a few of their starting pitchers from their system in the offseason with the trades with Wilson Contreras and Sonny Gray, it'd be incredible. It does also make a lot of sense for the Cardinals. The Red Sox just made another deal over the weekend where they're able to get a young infielder in Curtis Mead, and they gave up a young, cost-controlled starting pitcher in order to do so. If they're willing to give up more from their pipeline, Alex, I mean, I'm willing to talk to them about Jimmy Crooks or Leo Bernal, or yes, even in the scenario where they're willing to give up a lot, a big-time starting pitcher, I'm willing to talk Ivan Herrera with the Boston Red Sox. Now, I don't know what that trade would look like, but these three teams potentially being incentivized to add a catcher after Shea Langoliers over the weekend apparently tore his meniscus and is potentially going to be out for the remainder of the season, taking him off of the trade market. Cardinals are well situated to get into some kind of a bidding war in the event that they make one or multiple of those players available.
Yeah, look, I mean, typically, at least on the hockey side of things, and I would imagine baseball is somewhat as similar too, like typically GMs, they just negotiate with other GMs that they're familiar with. Now, obviously, needs bring up other teams that call and such, but like if you look at Doug Armstrong's history, there's a lot of deals with very similar teams and similar GMs because you know them, they're familiar with them, you trust them. If you're Chaim Bloom, I don't know if you're nervous to pick up the phone if you're Boston or Tampa Bay because you know Chaim understands that system so well. But if I'm Boston, I look at the returns that I got with Wilson Contreras and Sonny Gray, and yes, I gave up something that may hurt me down the road if they become great pieces, but those guys have been pretty damn good for the Boston Red Sox this season. So, look, if Chaim Bloom is going to target teams that he knows the system and he knows the guys that he believes can come to the Cardinals and upgrade what their future looks like, I am all for that. I said this last week, and I'll say it again. The Cardinals are in no position to sit here and say that, no, these guys are untouchable for me. Like, if the catching market is where teams are desperate for right now, if I'm Chaim, I'm calling all of them and saying, look, Reynel Rodriguez is unavailable, but I've got 3 other catchers, 4 if you want to throw Pages' name in there, that you can ask me about and we can start a negotiation with.
And Herrera's the name that I would really circle as the most interesting to me because, like, I don't know if anybody that is buying Bernal right now, because if you're on the market looking for a catcher, you're looking for someone that helps you now. Bernal would be more of a chip that you would use if you're going to go buy something like we talked last week about trading for the Angels controllable starters. That makes some sense. But I wonder how Herrera is viewed across the league at the catcher position, and if teams are going to be so desperate enough they even may have to like be willing to just kind of squeeze their nose and say, all right, I guess we'll kind of try this out because we need catching help. And this is where you see some of the best presidents of baseball operations or GMs really kind of take advantage of a market where I think it was 2 years ago, the Rays were kind of in it, and everybody thought, okay, the Rays will probably buy. They're going to be a team. And they saw the way that the market was going and said, what if we like did the opposite of what everybody else is doing and we became a seller? I wonder if Chaim will look at that and see if he can capitalize on this specific market of, man, all these teams are like begging for a catcher or a right-handed hitter, depending on who the team is you're talking about. And I wonder if he looks at that and says, what if we do this with Ivan Herrera, right? We've got Bernal and Crooks we could split this up with, or Pages for the rest of this season and for another year. And then in 2 years, our hope is that Reynel Rodriguez is the answer for that catcher position. I wonder how creative he's going to get at this year's trade deadline.
I'm really curious. It still feels to me more like an offseason move than a deadline move.
Agreed. And I don't know if Herrera is viewed as a catcher around the league, right?
I don't know.
I don't think he is.
And regardless, like however they view him, even if they did, even if other teams across Major League Baseball are like, no, we believe in that. We can figure it out. We can live with the lack of throwing runners out. Like, it's not going to be a problem for us. We'll be all right. It's still a controllable righty with that kind of upside, especially if you view him as a catcher and being under control for as long as he is and as good as he is offensively. It's the kind of thing you just very rarely see at the trade deadline. You typically see that where, like a team like Boston, for example, I would think Peyton Toll would have to be in that deal. That would kind of be the type of pitcher that I'm trying to get if I'm in the Cardinals' shoes. I don't think they're trading him at the deadline. That would have to be somebody that you replace, and you'd probably do so by either making another deal or by going to free agency to acquire a starting pitcher that can replace the production that you're getting out of him. You can't do that at the trade deadline. There are no alternatives. You're not just going to go get another guy that's going to give you the kind of production that Toll's been able to give them this year, which is a 3.3 ERA. So I don't know that they line up necessarily right now. And maybe a team like the Rays would be more interesting in that area, where maybe they are willing to give up something from their major league roster or guys that are closer to the major league level. The Red Sox have just like, man, their pipeline, at a certain point, you only have so many pitchers to trade. Right? They just gave up Connerly early, he's hurt right now, but he was one of their top pitchers. The Cardinals got like 6 of their top pitchers. They gave up one top pitcher to the Brewers in the offseason, who is now a top 3 starter for Milwaukee. I mean, how many guys can you have in your system? I know they were awesome at developing these guys in the Chaim Bloom era, but at this point, it's like guys that are already here and then guys that are down at like high A that are really, really far away. So I don't know. I made the joke of like he could do the funniest thing possible. I just don't know that it lines up right now.
Still funny as hell if you make them deal in the offseason and you're still dealing with them. And I mean, it does line up to make sense if those teams don't feel like
you got the CBA. So it's just like I don't know that this is the time to be able to get it done.
Yeah, and you're maybe not less incentivized, but then maybe you kind of convince yourself into Ivan Herrera and keeping it. And like now is when you would be incentivized because teams are so desperate that they come calling.
Correct.
You know, teams are a little bit more, as we see with the drip of the offseason, teams are much more cautious in the offseason in making this kind of a move, right? It's more of the deadline where you would see this kind of a splash. And like, I was just bringing it up if I'm curious to see if he's going to be willing to listen on this kind of a piece, because, I mean, this is a creative move if you're willing to do it.
And that's a move that teams get aggressive for and maybe stupid for, because if you're the Red Sox and you look at the American League and you say, that guy makes us better and we could legitimately win the American League if you put that bat in our lineup.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great hitter when he's on. You know, even now, he's an above-league average hitter this season, despite having a pretty awful 3-week stretch right now. And it looked over the weekend as though maybe he's starting to get back on track. And if he does, I think he could really help a team in the event that they're willing to take him on. But I just don't see a scenario where that's a deadline trade.
Yeah.
I think that's more the kind of thing that you would typically see in the offseason. And because the offseason is going to be cut short this year, I don't know that they're going to be able to get it done then either. I think this is probably something where Ivan Herrera is going to be on the Cardinals, I would guess, for at least the next 18 months. And then they figure out what to do after that. And they decide long term, all right, because at that point, Rainiel Rodriguez is probably getting close. And now you probably have to determine, all right, well, what's our plan here? Are we going to keep Ivan Herrera? Is he going to be a catcher or a first baseman long term? If we decide he's a first baseman, would we rather have him or maybe Alec Burleson long term? And then you kind of have to choose between the two of them. I know we think of Burley as being like the older guy. He's a year older than Ivan Herrera. They're pretty similar in terms of their timeline at the major league level. So eventually you're going to potentially have to choose between them. And then what does that mean for all of this?
Yeah, and now news coming from Buster Olney, Spencer Steers going on the IL and missing significant time with the wrist injury that left yesterday. So another one of the top right-handed bats, whether it both be catcher or right-handed bat in general. Now Steers is off the market because of injury. You mentioned Langeliers when we started this segment. If you're looking for right-handed bat / catcher, he's on the injured list and missing this year. Like, there are no right-handed bats, and this would be the best right-handed bat the Cardinals could offer on the market, because Velasquez wouldn't get you anything of significance. You could probably trade him for like a lottery ticket prospect. Masyn Winn's not a bat that teams are going to be going after if they're looking to improve their offense. The only right-handed bat that you could use to be creative would be Ivan Herrera, because you're not going to listen on Jordan Walker.
I think that's probably right. I mean, you could make the argument for Masyn Winn, but he's not a bat.
His offense isn't coming to help you.
He's somebody that you're
Defense
trading
first.
for the defense, and anything that he adds with the offense is a plus. Nelson Velasquez could maybe be a lottery ticket kind of guy that you trade for if you see some positive returns in his return from injury. Maybe you could do something with a Ramon Urias at the trade deadline. But, I mean, those are guys that are a dime a dozen across the league. That their competition is more in the Lane Thomas lane. No pun intended there. Ivan Herrera is a real, legit bat that changes the top 4 of most teams' lineups. Like, that guy fits into what you're trying to build for now and for the future. And almost every team in Major League Baseball can make that work contractually as well.
Yeah.
So it is an interesting discussion. I don't think they do it. I don't know that there's going to be a team that ultimately ponies up. Do you guys think this is something the Cardinals will actually get seriously down the road on at this year's trade deadline, if we had to speculate here?
Not Herrera, but I do think they'll seriously try and get down the road with one of Crooks or Bernal if there's interest.
I agree.
I don't think they get anywhere close to anything serious on Herrera. I think you will see his name pop up, but I don't think anything will be serious. I also don't know that they move their catching depth at the deadline, because I don't get the sense that they're going to be doing a little bit of buying at this point. And I'm now starting to think they're just going to be doing a little selling. I think it's in the offseason when they'll try and move on from some of their catching depth this year.
He's T-Bone. That's Alex. I'm BK. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up next, let's dive into in or out. 314-399-9646. That's your comfort service text line. In or out here on BK and Ferrario.
Ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo.
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for in or out. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are in or out here on BK and Ferrario. All right, Alex, let's start out with this. In or out. The Blues will still make one more trade prior to opening night of this season.
You took that one from me, didn't you? I'm going to say out. I think the most realistic one that they could make would be the Nikishin one, and that would be the one that I think they try and make, but I just don't know what the appetite is for the Hurricanes. Other than that, I don't see them making another trade.
Agree with Alex.
Yeah, I would say out as well. I think they'll be in on a lot of stuff. I don't think they're going to get anything done, though.
Do you need some more time?
No, I got it. In or out, because I'll go to Jordan Walker one. In or out, Jordan Walker hits 10 or more home runs the rest of the season.
I'll say in.
Say
Yeah, still got
because
what,
the
like
home run derby broke
60
him.
games remaining?
Yeah, maybe a little less than that.
Has he hit one since the
I
return?
think they're, 52 and 51? Am I right on that? Wrong on
Somewhere
that?
around there.
Doesn't matter, man. It's over.
10 home run. He'll go on another year. Why not?
Yep.
And
Out. The home run derby broke him. Don't do the home run derby again. Even though that was
he's
like
got to go defend his title next year. What do you
even
mean?
though that was the most fun that I've had like all season with this team watching that. And that's saying a lot because the season's been fun.
Second half, he's batting .220, getting on base .275, and has not yet hit a home run.
Still hitting doubles though, so
He does have the 4 doubles.
Guys,
Tanner, you
in or
need
out?
more time?
No, I got it. I was looking at something here. On this July 27th of last year, the Cardinals were 54 and 53, so basically right around the same thing. They finished below 500. In or out, the Cardinals will finish below 500 again this year.
I'll say in. I don't take any joy in saying this, but yeah, I think they will finish slightly below 500, somewhere around like 80 wins.
Yeah, and especially if they trade a couple of pieces out of their bullpen or if they do move Dustin May. You're putting a lot of younger, inexperienced guys into those spots, and I don't think your offense can carry you, so I'd say in.
I would say in as well. I think with them selling off, it'll be a lot like last year, where it'll just be a slow fall to about where they were last year. I think they'll go about the same. 78 and 84 is what they finished last season.
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for in or out. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are in or out here on BK and Ferrario. Guys, in or out, the first major sponsor for the Redbird Report will be Body Glide. BK will do a live radio application for it.
Oh, man. But he's got to apply T-bone with it. That's what I'd like to see. Now you're talking about views.
It helps a lot, man.
So they don't bleed.
Mm-hmm. You remember that from The Office?
I do remember that from The Office when he ran into Kevin and he's like, "Oh, come on, Kevin!"
Dude, it's awful.
Oh, it's empty.
And with the current humidity the way that it is, oh my god!
You know how I would avoid that? Not run.
Yeah, I hear you.
True.
I'm gonna stay in today.
From the 314 in or out, the Cardinals will be in last place in the division by the trade deadline. Is that possible?
I don't know how far back are the Reds. They gained some ground.
5.
They're 3.5 games back, so it is technically possible. I'll say out. I think the Reds are a worse team than you.
Yeah, Reds are playing Cleveland next.
I know they just beat you 2 out of 3, but I think they're worse than you.
Yeah, I'd say out. I mean, they got Cleveland and Pittsburgh next. Those are 2 solid teams, not great. I don't think they're going to surpass the Cardinals by the deadline. Now, by the end of the year, maybe, but I would say out for sure at the deadline.
Yeah, I guess I'll say out, but I think it's going to be close.
From Tim's Offshore Bookie, guys, in or out, if the rumors are true and St. Louis gets an NBA team to come to St. Louis, they should partner with the Blues to build a new state-of-the-art arena out in the Chesterfield Valley area.
Oh, God, don't do that to me, please.
That's not too far from you.
Yeah, but that's traffic, and I don't like traffic. Like, the city's a lot easier for me to just hop on 44 and get home. I'm out. Don't put it in Chesterfield. Keep it where it is. Downtown, baby.
What's the Enterprise Center lease? I've got to imagine that's...
I thought they re-upped that recently.
Surely they would have, right, when they did
the Enterprise update.
I've got to imagine they're in that thing for like the next 30 years.
Yeah, that had to have been like a 20-plus year. Yeah. If an NBA team is coming, they're working with the Blues and doing it at Enterprise and looking to do upgrades if they decide to do more
Enterprise
upgrades.
is nice, man.
It is. They just did upgrades like 5 years ago.
That's not a detriment to St. Louis getting a team. There are a lot of other potential hurdles to clear, but I don't think that is going to be one of them. From the 314, guys, in or out, the MLB lockout will go into the 2028 season. Out.
Jeez.
Yeah, no, they'll just go 1 year of missing work and then realize, like, this isn't very fun for us.
I think it's more likely we start on time next year than that we would miss any time in 2028.
Oh, I agree with that.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to miss any time in 2028. I do think they're going to miss a decent amount of games in 2027, but I do think they will play somewhat of a season. So
Dr. Sanders said, put the NBA and the NHL arena in Imperial. Hell yeah. Put it in Jeffco, baby.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line.
It's big enough.
For in or out. Guys, in or out from Doug's Ding Gong. The Cardinals will make a trade with Mo and LA by the deadline.
I'm going to say out.
I could see it, man. It makes a ton of sense for both sides.
Just do you think he's going to thread the needle?
I have no idea.
That's what I like.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Mo. From both sides, I truly don't know.
I guess I shouldn't count out threading the needle from the Angels either. But
my guess is Mo does not end up actually moving either of those pitchers.
Yeah, I don't think so. If you're him, I think you wait till the offseason to look at it before you make big moves like that.
That's my guess.
Unless somebody blows you out of the water.
Mo, he doesn't trade guys with contracts term remaining.
What's the one thing we've complained about the longest time is he doesn't, make moves. He just sits on them and waits too long. He's not going to do that now.
Yeah, but now he doesn't have a connection to those pieces. Here in St. Louis, he could,
I mean, it sounds like he might be taking over as general manager.
No, what I mean is,
what
I meant by that is he didn't draft them, right? I mean, that's where you run into these front offices where they always, I believe in this guy.
Mo seems like he's a meticulous individual who just isn't going to pull it.
I think he's trading a starter, and I think he might even trade Neto. But I don't think the Cardinals are going to be making a move with him.
My guess is they trade neither of those guys. Yeah. And they also do not trade Neto. I think that's just a story that not we, like as in this show. I think that's a story that the national media is latching onto because there are not very many sexy pieces that are going to be dealt at this year's deadline.
Those jerks, am I
think
right?
It's Scooble and a whole lot of spare parts. I think that's what we're going to see at this year's deadline. Yeah, and we'll see on Scooble if he even ends up going. But at least that one I think is real, where there's a case to be made. I mean, there's 6 games below 500 right now, and they can get a haul for Scooble. But beyond that, this trade deadline is setting up to not be a very good one, which presents a real opportunity for the Cardinals.
Or it presents a real opportunity for it to be incredible, and it just surprises the hell out of us with multiple names.
I didn't see the deal from the weekend coming down,
Yeah.
Connolly early is not the kind of piece that I anticipated getting dealt, and Curtis Meade had multiple years of control remaining. Mm-hmm. He's also a guy, though, in the offseason that was DFA'd. So, I don't know, man.
I'm surprised.
Life comes at you fast,
I'm surprised at how early that trade went down.
From the 314, in or out, Mo will make the playoffs in L.A. before Chaim makes playoffs here in St. Louis.
Have you seen that roster?
That organization's a nightmare.
Agreed.
And if Mo's not making the moves like I think he is, like what BK's saying, that's Mo and Artie Moreno, which that sounds like a equation that's not going to lead to playoff success.
Good luck getting better than Texas, Seattle, and Houston, or even the Athletics, who don't even have a city with them in the next 2 years.
I saw over the weekend.
Trade Trout.
Houston's planning to buy again.
I know. It
doesn't seem like a good idea.
Another owner that's a little
games,
Cocoa for Cocoa Puffs.
2 games back in the wild card. -47 in the run differential on the season.
They should
Only 2 games back in the division, though, too. So they've got 2 different outs to potentially get in. Seattle's going to go on a run eventually. I keep saying that, and they keep not doing that. But
just let them buy, man. Let's all laugh at them.
Have you guys seen what
the West sucks.
Donnie is doing, by the way, on his rehab stint?
No.
Oof.
Bad?
1 walk, I think, like 10 strikeouts.
Oh, yeah. First time playing in like 2 months.
I know. That's just
groin injury.
I hope he's able to get himself back on track and he can help get them going.
If he comes back and they still don't get going, I may not buy into them figuring it out this year.
I don't think you'll be making any more deals with Seattle moving forward.
We've had a decent number of questions, even during this segment, about Quinn Mathews. I do want to talk about him on the other side. He had another spectacular performance over the weekend. At this point, is he forcing his way to the big leagues? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals fell to the Reds yesterday 5-3 as they dropped 2-3 at home against Cincinnati. Tonight they start a 4-game set with the Chicago Cubs. 6:45 will be first pitch. David Peterson gets the start for Chicago. Matthew Liberatore will be on the mound for St. Louis. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
All right, I think he's forcing his way up to the big league level at this point, Alex.
You've been saying that with him and Bryson Motts for weeks, and nothing's happening, man.
It's been really impressive what has taken place over the last few starts for Quinn Mathews. In his last 4 starts, he's gone 26 innings, Alex. In those 26 innings, he has 28 strikeouts and 6 walks. Opposing hitters are batting just 163 against him. The big problem previously, again, was the walks, and those are now going away. And he's still striking out the world. That's good for a 1.04 ERA, and that is against 4 different teams. This isn't just like a, hey, that team is horrible offensively, and he's doing good work against them. So it's been wildly impressive. Now, prior to that, there were some legit walk issues that he had been dealing with, but the overall results have been really good now for 9 starts. In his last 9 starts, opposing hitters are batting 131 against him with a 1.5 ERA. Yep, call him up.
Just like that, huh?
He's ready. Like, there's nothing left for Quinn Mathews to prove at this point at the AAA level. He has now been down there for about a year. This is not some guy that's 21 years old and you're worried about, how's he going to deal? No, he's almost 26. Like, he is basically the same age as Ivan Herrera, and he has yet to crack the big league lineup. I think he might actually be older than Matthew Liberatore, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think they're the same age. This is a guy that's, from a physicality perspective, ready from this level. From a productive perspective, ready for this level. And now from an opportunity perspective, he also appears to be getting ready for this level, as we are now only a week away from the trade deadline, and the Cardinals are very likely going to open up some kind of a spot in their rotation. Even if it requires them to make a different move, though, this is a guy that should be in your rotation. He's better than some other alternatives.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, they're going to have to make 2 moves to their rotation, aren't they?
Potentially, depending on how they want to play this thing. You could do a 6-man if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they will, and they haven't shown any, ways to not do that. I just they're putting Hunter Dobbins in the rotation because they kept him up there. They sacrificed a bullpen spot, and we saw the ramifications of it. So Quinn Mathews, if we're going down the path of we think Dustin May is going to get traded at the deadline, that's Hunter Dobbins' spot. So Quinn Mathews' spot relies solely on, do they trade Palante or Leahy, or do they move Liberatore to the bullpen? And I'm skeptical of both of those situations. Now, I think they should. I made my case with the Eric Fedde comp last week with Matthew Liberatore, so I would have 0 qualms about them saying, Libby, you're going to the bullpen. We're putting Quinn Mathews. What's his next start lineup as Wednesday, the 29th? Because he pitched on the 24th?
He started on the 24th, so
29th, right? Or is that the 30th?
30th.
30th. Okay,
so probably based upon what he does down at the AAA level.
So, I mean, I don't think that lines up with Libby. You'd have to make some adjustments here. But, yeah, I would have no qualms with saying, Libby to the bullpen. We're putting Quinn Mathews in the spot. I don't trust the Cardinals to do that because otherwise they would have pulled the trigger on that weeks ago with Matthew Liberatore.
But there wasn't a need to do it then. At that point, Quinn Mathews still had his walk issues.
But you could have put Dobbins in that spot because Libby was struggling.
Dobbins was also struggling at times down at AAA.
But we saw him at the major league level, though, and he looked like he could be competitive.
He looked fine. But I didn't feel like he was like banging the door down. This is different to me. This is what Jimmy Crooks did. This is what it looked like when you're comparing like Nathan Church at the big league level, what he had been doing before this recent stretch, compared to what Victor Scott was doing at the big league level. Like, I think this is a lot different than what we had seen from Hunter Dobbins, for example. Dobbins never had this kind of a dominant stretch down at AAA. And he did not ever look dominant while he's been at the big league level up until his most recent start, which is what allowed him to stay this time around. T-Bone, how do you view this with the Quinn Mathews discussion of it all?
Well, I agree he's ready to come up here. I don't know how they're going to go about it because I'm not actually convinced that Dobbins ends up sticking around after he makes his next start. I could see where they option him down. They bring up an extra bullpen arm, and then if they want to go another turn for a 6-man, which I don't even know that they necessarily will need, they could then call up Quinn Mathews to take that spot, and that way they can kind of plan around it a little bit more. Or they just look at it and they say Quinn Mathews will take Dustin May's spot when we trade him, or Leahy or Palante if they make that move. I don't know that they're going to trade those guys. I think it's more May, but I think he's going to be up here post trade deadline. And I'm not necessarily convinced that Dobbins is a lock to be in this rotation the moment that they make that first trade, because I think they may just view that as, hey, Dobbins is our 6th starter. He's fine. We're going to put Quinn Mathews here in this rotation. Whether that means it's because we traded away a starter and he just goes into that spot, or if we don't because we're not getting value, boom, then we'll just replace Liberatore with him. Because I don't think they feel a need to keep Dobbins up here in the rotation. Otherwise, I think they would have replaced him with Libby like 2 weeks ago. Even though Dobbins wasn't dominant down at the AAA level, he wasn't burning the house down like Matthew Liberatore was when he was on the mound. So I don't know that it's a guaranteed Dobbins here, but I do think Quinn Mathews will be starting for the Cardinals post-trade deadline, which is a week from today.
I do think these guys are like very different in terms of how they profile as starters.
I agree with that.
I'm right there with you, T-Bone. Like I think that there's not only do I think they could potentially flip Dobbins and Quinn Mathews after the trade deadline, I think it would be totally reasonable if they decide to do that. Now, I would advocate for we've been saying this for a couple of weeks now, putting Matthew Liberatore into the bullpen after you likely trade JoJo Romero. Ellie, you could do that today, and I'd be fine with it. And then you make that spot open for Quinn Mathews. But if for whatever reason they decide not to do that and they just want to keep Dobbins down, they want to have that extra 6th man, that's their depth, fine. In his last 8 starts, Hunter Dobbins, opposing hitters, this is both at the big league level and at AAA, to be fair, but in those 8 starts for him, opposing hitters are batting .295 with an 800 OPS and a 4.2 ERA. And Quinn Mathews starts over this same stretch of time, all of this against AAA competition. That is an important disclaimer. He has allowed a 1.5 ERA and opposing hitters are batting .131 against him. Dobbins just doesn't have the same upside. I think Dobbins is probably long-term going to be a 4 or a 5 starter for you. He's one of the guys that finishes out your rotation. Quinn Mathews still has the upside to be a mid-rotation or higher upside starter for you. So that to me is where I think the two are almost in like separate conversations. I think the conversation for Quinn Mathews is when he's here, he stays. He never leaves. This is a guy that should be a stalwart in your rotation for hopefully the next 5 years, if he's figured it out. Dobbins is a guy who you're probably kind of going to have in that conversation with Palante, Leahy, to round out the rotation in that spot after Michael McCreevy, whenever you're good again. I think that's kind of how I view them separately, personally.
Yeah, I personally just think this is simple enough to say, look, Libby, you're a bullpen arm. If I'm the Cardinals, I'm seeing it. I've gone through this enough. Libby, you're a bullpen arm. We appreciate what you did, but we think you could be a high leverage arm for us that we truly need. Look at what happened without having JoJo Romero, and that's Quinn Mathews' spot.
How would you guys feel? I don't know that they're going to do this, but I'm just going to present this.
Sure.
Because the more I'm looking into it, I go, boy, this would really rile up BK. But so he's at 92 innings so far this season. Last year he was at 99. I think his high when he's been in the minors, it looks like it's 143. So in theory, he wouldn't have an innings limit, but they may be a little bit more cautious since he dealt with some injuries last year of building him up. How would you feel if what if they start him another month at AAA and he just comes up in September as a bullpen arm? And that's kind of how they work him in slowly to be a big leaguer.
Wouldn't love it, but I would understand it.
Because I could also see
I'll defer to them on the health stuff. I trust them on the health stuff to make this thing work. I don't think that's going to be necessary. If you can get to 100 innings last year, you should be able to get to 120, 130 this year, especially as a guy who previously was an absolute workhorse while he was down at the AAA or at the minor league level and in college. So it's really a one-year blip for him. Normally when you see those innings limits that guys get to, it's because they haven't had that kind of a workload in multiple seasons. I think you could see Kyle Leahy run into some kind of an innings limit down the stretch. And maybe, this is a real possibility. Maybe they say, we saw it last year with Liberatore, hey, we're going to skip a Kyle Leahy start here. And that's where Quinn Mathews goes into your rotation. And then we're going to bump Kyle Leahy into the bullpen where he'll go 2 or 3 innings at a time instead of right now getting the 6 to 7 innings that he's been going. And they're able to just continue to keep him on his start schedule down the stretch, especially after becoming a seller, and do it that way, where Leahy is ultimately the one that loses that spot in the rotation, and you're able to replace him with Quinn Mathews. I could potentially see something like that.
Yeah, and that would be interesting because you're right. Leahy would be another one that would to monitor for potential innings limit, because I think last year, I thought maybe it wasn't truly the case for Liberatore. I thought that was part of Libby's problem last year. I thought he ran into an innings limit where I wanted to give him a hug in like September when he'd start, where it was just like, man, this poor guy's going out there and getting clobbered.
That poor guy was gassed.
It turns out maybe Libby just wasn't a good starter, right? I mean, like maybe that's what the answer was. Maybe Leahy doesn't even have an innings limit, you know? They may just say, we're just going to keep going until he starts to show any sign of fatigue.
Yeah, I wouldn't really do an innings limit on this guy. I mean, although they do put an emphasis on making sure health is important with these guys. But yeah, I mean, that's a guy that I'm not going to stop. Even if his stuff doesn't look great, he's still pitching well for you to the point that it's like, why would we stop that?
You talking about Leahy?
Yeah.
Injury.
Yeah, but I mean, I can understand that, and that would be them. But other than the injury side of it, I'd still play this guy through to see what it looks like.
Yeah, but I mean, there's just such a fear of injury. You know, as you continue to ramp up the workload. In the last 2 seasons, this is a guy who threw 85 and 76 innings. The year before that, he was at 145. So maybe you're fine with it. And you say, hey, you know what? We're going to keep riding this thing, see if he shows any sign of decline. And if he doesn't, we'll just keep going. But a lot of the time when you see something like that where a guy has not, I mean, there's potential that he is going to basically match his innings from the past 2 years combined this season. Mm-hmm. And that is generally speaking something that teams would try to avoid if possible. And if you're out of it down the stretch, you probably want to try to avoid that.
Take the cautious route, which would make some sense. And like you said, then you can, and even if it's not Quinn Mathews, right? Like maybe they do what I said at first, which is, you know, I'm not convinced Dobbins is actually guaranteed to be sticking around here after he makes this start, which I think is supposed to be tomorrow. But maybe that's how they do it. Dobbins comes up in those spots to be the quote-unquote replacement starter.
And if you're trading Dustin May at this year's deadline, like you trade Dustin May, you put Kyle Leahy into your bullpen, and now you've got 2 spots that have opened up, and you've got your 5-man rotation ready to go with both Mathews and Dobbins at the major league level. And because you have Leahy in the bullpen now, you're probably talking about 1 day a week where maybe it's like on Palante days or something, because they're lined up back-to-back right now. He goes 3 innings, Palante gives you 6, and your bullpen gets a day off that day. And so because you have him on a schedule, yes, you're kind of playing down a man in the bullpen, but he also gives your bullpen a day off on the day that Kyle Leahy starts, or the day that Kyle Leahy piggybacks, so to speak, with Andre Palante. So I could see that being the scenario that ultimately presents itself. I could also see them maybe trading one of these guys. Like maybe Matthew Liberatore, somebody else views him as still having some value. And the Cardinals say, okay, cool, we'll go ahead and flip you either as a starter or a reliever to a good team and make it work that way. Or Palante, you know, maybe a team says, hey, I know T-Bone doesn't view it this way, but we think this is a guy that can be a 3rd or a 4th starter in a playoff series. And we don't have a guy that we trust in that round, and there's no pitching available right now. Like maybe the Brewers say, hey, we need a guy that can start a game 4. We love our top 3, but we need a guy that can start a game 4. We've been doing this with so many terrible guys right now. Let's go ahead and make this work with him. We've got a loaded minor league system. We'll float you our like 10th best prospect, who in most other systems will be the 4th best prospect.
Yeah.
You know,
he might be number 1.
Something like that might be of interest as well. All right, coming up next, I've got a scenario that I want to present to you guys in the junk drawer. I've got a hypothetical betting scenario for you guys. This individual put a $5 bet down on FanDuel. It's a 3-leg parlay for Major League Baseball. Futures odds. Cam Schlittler to win American League Cy Young. Kevin McGonigal to win AL Rookie of the Year. And Jacob Misiorowski to win NL Cy Young.
Solid bet.
All three of those look very realistic right now. As of today, Schlittler is the favorite to win the AL Cy Young. Misiorowski is the favorite to win the NL Cy Young, and McGonigal is a heavy favorite to win the AL Rookie of the Year. It's a $5 bet to potentially win $15,000. If you were to cash out, you can cash out today for $2,000, but you lock it in. You put a $5 bet down, you get $2,000 back today. Or you press your luck, see where things go from here, and hope like hell Dylan Cease doesn't have a great second half of the season. Because that's basically the one that you're worried about. Because I don't think Miz is losing out, and I don't think McGonigal is going to lose his stranglehold on the AL Rookie of the Year.
You think an injury would cost like Misiorowski if he got hurt?
I don't think so at this point.
Stop
He's been
using him
so
as much
special
to make sure he's good for the playoffs.
Well, that one wouldn't worry as more of injury, like if he can't even accumulate starts and innings. And
I don't think anybody's going
to
push him out of that, though, in the NL.
Wheeler is the one guy that I think maybe you could make a case for. He's at a 2.1 ERA and 16 starts this year. Doing that coming back from the injury is ridiculous.
Or if it happened in the AL as well, right? If an injury does occur, then I would think
McGonigal?
Yeah. Or no. The AL side pitching.
Oh, that one is close. Schlittler might not win it even if he's healthy the rest of the year. Yeah. Cease was great again yesterday.
I don't really care with any. It's $5. If you would have told me that it was like a
$200, $2,000 also.
I totally
I've got $2,000 that I'm handing you ready to go. And there's the potential of $0 over here.
I would still go for it.
I'm a coward. I'm cashing out.
That's one that $5, man. It was a long shot, and if I win it, great. If not, I'm out $5. I would play that one out.
I would be worried about the pitching injuries, and then let alone that the AL is close anyways. I would probably cash out, and I would just take my $2,000 and celebrate.
You let it ride, baby.
I think I let it ride. I would at least wait a little longer. I don't think you're going to get much less than $2,000 for this bet.
I was going to say, if the payout gets up to like $6,000, then I think I'm going to start.
The tough part, though, is as it gets to $6,000, you're getting closer to the season, and you're more likely to win your bet, because that's the only reason that they're continuing to increase the payout like that.
Yeah, but injuries can happen at any time, and you don't know how close it is there.
There's less time for other guys to be able to close that gap.
Yeah.
Like if Misiorowski gets injured with 3 weeks left in the season, he's probably still winning the Cy Young.
Yeah. It's really just the AL Cy Young race that you'd have to kind of keep an eye on.
I mean, I'm letting that ride no matter what, because it's $5. I'm letting it ride. Go for the $15,000.
I think that's what I'm doing too. $15,000 really changes things for you. $2,000 helps, don't get me wrong, but $15,000 is a big deal. I mean, you're getting a really nice vacation with $15,000. Like Alex's family of 27 could take a vacation on $15,000.
All go to Disney World.
All right.
Yeah.
Somebody said cash out and hedge.
Yeah.
There's just not a good enough hedge to potentially be had here, because all of them are pretty low odds. So you're not. You could cash out the $2,000, but then you put $500 down and win $500.
I could pay off so much debt with $15,000, man. God, that would be awesome.
Schlittler is minus 130, so you have to basically bet $500 to win $500. Misiorowski's minus 260, which means you have to bet $260 to win $100. And McGonigal's minus 250, which is basically the same. So there's just not a real opportunity here to be able to hedge. That would be more of if you had one of these, we're at 10-1 odds still, then you could potentially hedge and, put down $1,000 of the $2,000. You're locking in. I'm winning $1,000 and put the $1,000 down to potentially win $2,000 still.
Yeah.
But you don't have that opportunity given where all these odds are.
It's a $5 bet. When you put that bet, you were going for the long shot and probably thought it wasn't going to work. And now that you've gotten closer to it, man, I'm still going to have that mindset. As great as the $2,000 is, $2,000 versus 15 is significant. If that was 2 versus 8, I would just take the 2. But that's 2 versus 15. Yeah. That's a life-changing. Not the 2 isn't, but 15 could do a lot for you.
Somebody said, dude made the bet to win, not to hope for a cash out. Let it ride. That's how gambling works. Most of the time.
Sometimes I'm pretty cheap and I'm like, nah, give me the $500.
Most of the time, I would recommend against taking what they're offering to cash out. Because most of the time, the reason that they're offering, well, all of the time, the reason they're offering it for you is because it's a good quote unquote bet for the company, right? They're not just offering you out of the goodness of their heart. Yeah. They're trying to make money out here.
Way to go.
At the end
Here's
of the day.
$2,000.
But if you have the wherewithal, it's typically best for you not to cash out over the long haul. This being said, it's a $5 bet. He probably put this in assuming he was not getting anything in return, just lighting money on fire to have fun with it.
That's what
There's
you're doing.
a decent chance he just remembered this bet like a week ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I looked at my accounts in the past and I'm like, wait a minute, I bet on so-and-so.
What I do when
I've got to bet on the Royals to win the Central. I don't think that's happening.
What I'll do if I got $5 is I'll put it in and I'll come up with the most obscure long bet and say, cool, if this hits, awesome. If not, $5 I decided to throw down the toilet.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up next, is there anything that could be done over the next 7 days that would make you reverse course on the Cardinals' current outlook for the deadline? We'll talk about that next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, is there anything that could happen over the next 7 days that would allow you to revisit the current outlook at the trade deadline? What's your answer to that, Alex?
No.
Okay.
No, unfortunately, back-to-back series losses to the Angels and Reds really puts a damper on anybody trying to sell me on, yeah, but they beat the Cubs and Blue Jays going into a trade deadline. So
Can I present a scenario?
I'm going to tell you no ahead of time, but sure.
Okay, cool.
Maybe you convince T-Bone.
Let's say you end up winning, let's call it 6 of your next 7. against the Cubs and the Toronto Blue Jays. It's unlikely. We would all agree with that, right? Unlikely that you win 6 or 7.
Yeah.
But let's just going down this hypothetical path. Let's say you do
6 or 7.
I was going to say, the team that just lost to the Angels and Reds, yeah, it's unlikely.
If you do that, you're probably in a wild card spot. Because who's ahead of you right now is the Diamondbacks, the Pirates, and the Nationals. The Diamondbacks will play the Pirates head-to-head for 3 games coming up this week. The Nationals are selling already. They're ready to start getting rid of some of their assets. They've got the Braves on the road for 4 games prior to the trade deadline. That's probably not going to go super well for them, I would assume. If you're able to win 6 of your next 7, you're probably in the playoffs by the time we get to the deadline. Does that change anything for you?
No.
I don't think so. I think we've seen over the last couple weeks their whole pitching, and even with a good offense, it's all built on a house of cards that it can cave in at any point. So do I really want to spend assets to try and improve this club? Not really. I mean, you could maybe convince me of like a little buy, but mostly sell. I just think you're selling for sure. I don't even think Chaim at this point is going to be willing to thread the needle.
The area you're most efficient is the bullpen, and the area that is the most expensive at the deadline is bullpen. So you're not fixing this, and even off of 7 games, let's say your bullpen is better, I'm not going to believe that all of a sudden it's fixed to the point that, yeah, now you should go spend assets to go make your team better to try and make a push. Could you sell me on, well, we're not going to sell off these pieces? Sure. But when we asked Derek that last week or 2 weeks ago, he said, no, there's no way they just stand pat. You're either buying or you're selling, and I don't think this team is worth buying on.
Here is Ken Rosenthal earlier today on the Fair Territory podcast talking about the Cardinals' plans.
St. Louis Cardinals. Well, for them, it was kind of nice while it lasted. 3-7 out of the break, 1.5 games out in the wild card race, but their playoff odds are below 20%. And frankly, their president of baseball operations, Chaim Bloom, never wanted to buy anyway. So maybe the Cardinals do something along the lines of what the Nationals just did and try to kind of keep it going. But at the same time, they've got a couple of players on expiring contracts that teams will want. The reliever, Jojo Romero, and starting pitcher, Dustin May. Lars Nootbaar, an outfielder with an additional year of control. Also someone who could command possibly a decent return. So they've got young catching. I can see them making prospect for prospect kinds of trades, but I don't expect them to be a serious buyer, and they shouldn't.
Yeah, I agree with all that. Like, if you want to go prospect for prospect, I'm fine with that. Like, if you want to do those type of trades, I still think that's an area that they could pursue. But even if you win 6 of 7 in the scenario that you presented, I still think I'm selling Dustin May. I still think I'm selling multiple bullpen pieces, and I'm listening on everything that I have on my roster.
That's kind of where I'm at. I presented the alternative just to play devil's advocate
You
and say,
believed it. We just broke your heart.
in this scenario, would it change anything for you? I think we've just seen the flaws of this roster. I think for most of the season, they played above their heads, and when they were doing so, I was like, hey, you shouldn't sell if you're in a playoff spot. But we've now seen it. The roster is just too flimsy to really buy into what they're doing. I also think there's a scenario where even if you do sell at the trade deadline, you may be able to maintain that spot with Quinn Mathews taking over for Dustin May. I don't know who I would pick out of the two to be better down the stretch this year, but I think there's at least a, 60-40 shot that it's close. You know, I like the 40% side goes toward Quinn Mathews. He's been awesome for the better part of a month and a half now down at AAA. Will that translate? I don't know. I have no clue. I've seen guys have really great success down there come up here. Jimmy Crooks, for example, and it just looks okay. Blaze Jordan, just okay so far. So I don't know what that looks like on the pitching side of things. There have been relievers that come up, and after being awesome down there, they look terrible once they get to the big league level. So I don't know, but you might not take that big of a step back when it comes to what you've got right now. And I think they need to get what they can for Jojo Romero. He's on the injured list right now. He's an expiring contract. Go ahead and trade him. If you're able to get more than the qualifying offer compensation, or you're not planning to qualifying offer Dustin May this year in the offseason, then go ahead and trade him for whatever the best offer is that you can get for Dustin May. I think you're going to be able to get a pretty decent package for him. If you look under the hood, by the way, his fielding independent numbers are still really good this season. The ERA is a little bloated, but overall his numbers are pretty good, and I think that's what most teams are going to look like. Ryan Stanek, I'd be open. I think you could probably get an okay return for him as well. And then I'd listen on Riley O'Brien. I'd listen on George Soriano, some of these more controllable relievers as well. I wonder if you could get something for Justin Brule. I don't think it's crazy to imagine that somebody would give you a lottery ticket kind of a prospect for him. When he's got a 3.8 ERA on the season, he's a lefty. You look at the lefties in the National League, man, it's going to be important for you to be able to have a lefty that can come in and get a couple of outs in a playoff series. So I'd be listening on all of this stuff, man. And then you do it all over again in the offseason to replace him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Walker and Weatherholt, and I would put Burleson in this because I do think he's a piece that I'd try and build around. But I could understand you wanting to listen on that. Those are the guys that I wouldn't listen on. Everything else on this roster right now, yes, including Herrera, yes, including Winn, I'm all ears with. Because I think you are in a position that you should still be looking to get to that ultimate destination. And to get there, you may have to give up something that's on the roster right now. I think you're starting to see where just guys lie in terms of what you're trying to build towards. So, yeah, I think phones are open to see what teams want and how desperate they want to get.
I also trust this front office to get good returns. And I think that's part of it, too. Like, if I'm being honest, I don't know that I would be singing the same tune if John Mozeliak was still in charge.
Agreed.
By the end, I didn't feel great about what Mo was going to get back for you.
Yeah.
I would have assumed he was going to get a low upside, close to the majors pitcher.
He got Matt Swanson.
Yeah,
right,
and it's fine. Low upside, close to the majors pitcher. I mean, think about that sell-off that they had.
That's the best piece they probably got in it.
TK Roby's probably the best piece, but he's been hurt basically since then. But, I mean, most of the other guys, the pitchers that you got in return where they said pitching is what they're prioritizing, they're gone. All of them. They've been DFA'd or allowed to go somewhere else. And as I look at their current front office, just with what they did in the offseason, now they were maybe, you could argue, better pieces that they sold, but they got way higher upside pieces. Ty Pete right now, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but he's putting together a hell of a season at high A since his return from the injury. Mason Molina, pretty darn good from last trade deadline. What they've been able to get by, I always mispronounce the guy's name, but Fajardo? Brandon Clark. Man, it's looking pretty impressive. I mean, Hunter Dobbins already looking pretty darn good as well.
Richard Fitz in spring training before he got injured. I mean, every trade that they made this offseason, it really felt like has looked to the parts where it's like, damn, that guy's going to be something you can dream of. Whether they're on the team or they become a trade asset when the team's trying to find more upgrades.
And the same thing's true for their drafts. They had huge celebration of their draft this year. Last year, they got a lot of praise for the kind of players that they were prioritizing. And that all stems from the top, right? Even if it's not Chaim Bloom specifically making the selections, it's their team, whether it's player development, scouting, whomever, that is put in charge of putting together the process of this is the kind of traits that we're looking for in the Cardinals minor league system. And I trust them to go out there and add stuff that's going to help you in the long term or will at least be valuable to the rest of the major leagues in another trade down the road as opposed to what they had in charge previously. Sange is another one. The numbers overall haven't been great this season, but the stuff is there. I see why they bought in on it, and they're pushing him in a way that they're not with most of their other minor league pitchers. That's part of this as well. I just trust that they're going to be able to get a good return for these guys.
Yeah, and I'm 100% with you. And I think the thing that they've done so well is they're targeting upside and they're targeting specific tools, right? I mean, with Mo, like you said, it was basically just like targeting like the floor as this guy's a big leaguer. And that even dates back to like I think his final draft when he took Michael McGreevy. I mean, McGreevy's a good big leaguer, not much of a ceiling to his game, I would say. And that was the case for John Mozeliak. So yeah, I'm with you. And I was one that was arguing that you buy if you're in a playoff spot. Now that I've seen kind of look, there's just too many holes to fill on this roster to even make them playoff competitive, let alone if you were hoping to go on a run, it's not even worth trying to give up that many assets for a team that's in the midst of a rebuild.
All right, you guys want to hear a former Cardinal talk about trading a potential franchise player?
Who is going to? Did Albert Pujols say they should trade Jordan Walker?
Take a listen.
I think you have a serviceable shortstop that you just gave $100+ million to. I don't know where Mason's head's at with not being the leadoff guy, not getting an extension. We can say everything we want about, hey, I'm good with everything. Your feelings get hurt when you think you were the next guy in line to be the leadoff guy and to get an extension, and you've got neither and someone else has that was a rookie when they showed up. That's a slap in the face. I don't care what anyone says.
If you're rebuilding They're both young guys. That's a good place to start. And I just don't think whoever you get.
How many years? You're looking at only 3 years right now because they've not extended him.
I want them to extend him at some point.
That's an interesting thought there by Lance Lynn.
I never thought of it. But
on the human side of things.
This is what we talked about with Robert Thomas. Mm-hmm. We talked about at the deadline of them potentially trading him. Like, look, if you don't give him the captaincy, he's got his contract extension, but when you're paying other guys more money, where's his head at? You know, I brought up the Leo Carlson thing. Look, Cutter Gauthier now is wanting $15 to $16 million. Where's the head at when a guy gets something that you thought you were going to get first? And for a guy like Masyn Winn, who's got a lot of swag to him, I have to imagine he thought this was his role, to where I'm the face of the Cardinals, I'm the leadoff guy. Now, some of this is on him. You didn't take it, and Weatherholt stepped in and did it immediately. But, yeah, man, I mean, the human element to this is real, and sour grapes can happen, and where's your head at?
I will say this, and T-Bone, I'm guessing this is the direction you're going to go. If you want to be the leadoff guy, bat better than 250, get on base at a higher clip than 310, and have an OPS that's better than 700.
You read my mind.
And if you do that, you're A, more likely to be the leadoff hitter, and B, more likely to get a contract extension. Because then you're a gold glove, platinum glove caliber of shortstop, and you're a above average offensive contributor.
Read that slash line again.
What do you mean?
Where you said batting above 250 and what?
On base percentage above 310. Okay. OPS above 700.
Okay, Masyn Winn did all of that in his first full season as a Cardinal.
Correct, and has not done it since.
But he didn't get a contract in his first full season, and J.J. Weatherholt got a contract the first season that he did it.
No doubt. I would say, the pedigree's a little different between the two.
Well, sure, but, I mean, that's where the sour grapes comes from. Like, wait a minute, I played, now, he was there for 37 games prior.
To be fair, he never was going to profile as a leadoff hitter.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, if I'm him, like, put yourself in his shoes. Everything Weatherholt's doing, I did my first season.
It's a fair retort.
And I was an elite gold glove shortstop.
No, it's totally fair. I mean, what you're saying there is a reasonable retort, and you look at the numbers offensively, what we're seeing this year from J.J. Weatherholt is not all that dissimilar from what we saw in year one by Masyn Winn. Yep. I mean, in some ways, Masyn was even better. Masyn had a higher slugging percentage in his first year.
And did he win the Gold Glove that year, or was it 2025 that he won it?
The next year. The following season.
Gotcha.
But he was excellent defensively in that first season.
And that's just why I bring it up.
Yeah. And it was at a more premium defensive position than what JJ has been at second base. It's a fair point, Alex. I would say one of the main reasons that the Cardinals listed as to why they gave this contract extension to JJ was all the off-field stuff, man. They trust him. They think this guy is going to be able to consistently make the changes that are necessary. He shows up to the fields every day, and he's the exact same guy. And you guys, I want to make this very clear before I say what I'm about to say. I love Masyn Winn. I would be happy to have that guy around for the next decade. I think he's a really good baseball player, even if he's not an excellent offensive baseball player, right? Like, I think there's more to the game than just what you produce on the offensive side of the ball. That being said, to give part of why I don't think he's got an extension yet, I don't know that they trust him the same way that they do with JJ.
Well, and
be that guy. And part of that's injuries, part of that, like, it just, in general, I don't know how they feel about him getting a long-term contract extension and what that's going to look like over the next 6 years.
And I get that. And if you're Masyn Winn, you can be a little sour. Now, I'm not saying this is Lance Lynn talking. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. Everything we've heard is this clubhouse and team is tight. But it could lead to poor or sour feelings if somebody like that is getting it. And basically the organization is saying, yeah, we didn't see that in you.
And I think, BK, to your point on maybe they don't trust him, look at the comment that Ollie had on the Gas House game last week, I think it was, where it was, hey, who hasn't exceeded expectations? And I think it was Bernie said Masyn Winn. And I think we agree on that, right?
Yeah.
And the answer from Ollie was, no, this is about what we expected. All right, well, that felt kind of telling in the moment because I thought last year was going to be the one-off. Not that I ever thought he was going to be, 10 to 20% above league average. I definitely thought he'd get closer to what he was 2 years ago. And instead, he hasn't improved offensively. Batting average is down. On base slightly up. Slug is way down. His slug is almost the exact same as his on base percentage.
I think you can live with him being a 240 hitter.
Agreed.
The on base percentage, you'd prefer it be a little higher, but you can live with it. But if he's going to be those, he's got to slug the way that he did in year one, where he finished the season with 32 doubles and 15 home runs that year. If that's the guy you're getting from a slugging percentage perspective, well, now he's an above league average hitter, and he's a platinum glove shortstop at the most premium defensive position, and he's a pretty decent base runner. He's adding, 10 to 15 stolen bases. Okay, that's a well-rounded player that I want to be here for the next decade.
That's a 5-win player every year. What he was
least.
2 years
Absolutely.
ago.
Yeah, and in some years better than that, depending
100%.
on what you get from the defensive
100%.
side of the ball. But when you're slugging 315 instead of 415, it changes things in a pretty significant way. That's a 100-point drop in slugging percentage over the last 2 seasons. Yeah, I think you look a little sideways at that as, say, why?
Yeah.
Why did that happen? Where is the lack of production coming from? And that's why you're not batting leadoff now. That's why you're closer to the bottom of the order than the top of the order. And some of this might be why you're not seeing a contract extension for him. That being said, on the actual substance of what Lance Lynn was getting at there, would you guys be listening on Masyn Winn at this year's deadline? Because I don't view it as simple as, like, you just move JJ over to shortstop. I don't know how he would translate there. Maybe it's great, maybe it's not, but he's an excellent second baseman right now, and I don't think you have another shortstop in your system. I would stick with it as is unless you get an absolute haul for Masyn Winn. I would need a huge return at this year's trade deadline to make me revisit this. Do you guys feel differently?
No, that's how I feel as well. I'm listening on everything. Like, there's no way I look at this and say, well, no, Masyn Winn's untouchable. He's not. But I'm also not selling for pennies on the dollar of saying, well, Masyn Winn's not going to be around here long term, and he's just a gold glove defender at shortstop. I need to get rid of that and just put somebody else there. You're not also in that position. That's what I think championship teams do, that say, well, you're not providing offense at that spot. We think this guy can be serviceable defensively there, and we can upgrade at the second base position. So you're not in that spot. So unless a haul comes in for Masyn Winn, just like a haul has to come in for Herrera, and just like a haul has to come in for a lot of other pieces that I'm listening on, then I'll move him. But I'm not just going to move him to say, well, we needed to get off him because he's not a part of the future.
Yeah, I wouldn't move him for prospects. The only way I'm moving him is if it's more in like a buy move, and that's why I think if you're going to have this conversation, probably more in the offseason, and then you can move Weatherholt over to short and you can figure out what you're going to do at second base, because they don't even have anybody, I think, internally that can really play that position now. I would then be more willing to do it, but I think you're looking at more of like you're trading him to go out and get like a controllable starter, right? Like if the Angels want let's say they trade Neto at the deadline and they go into the offseason going, all right, we don't really have anything here. Maybe we'll listen and we want Winn in a package to send out Soriano or Detmers if they don't move them. That's the only way that I'm doing it. If I'm getting a controllable major league starter that can really improve my team.
I don't think those guys are good enough for me. And not
I
under
would
contracts long enough term.
Because I actually think there's a chance Winn gets worse offensively from here. Because once you start to see Slug go down like this, it typically doesn't bounce back.
I still think he's a valuable player, though. Like Soriano and Detmers, I think they're both very good players, don't get me wrong. But, man, I would be looking for something that's more controllable longer term than those guys if I'm trading Masyn Winn. I think Masyn Winn's just a better trade chip than those guys, personally. Maybe it's not higher upside, but more control, I think I would definitely prioritize than those two guys because they only have 2 years remaining on their contracts.
Yeah, I don't think that makes your team better in terms of getting rid of a gold glover at shortstop to bring in a 3 for your rotation. I think you have to, because we don't know what Weatherholt looks like at defense, and now maybe your defense stinks in the middle.
He'll definitely be, I would bet today he'd be worse than Winn, but I don't know that it'd be a significant
And then
drop-off.
who's playing second for you that you feel comfortable with?
That'd be something you'd have to figure out in the offseason.
I don't think JC's there.
No, I'm not sure he's a big leaguer.
Fermin
might be your second baseman, just as a stopgap answer.
And to me, to get a Soriano or a Reed Detmers, I don't think that makes your team better.
Yeah, I personally
feel like it's a lateral move. I feel like you're just kind of moving this chair over here and saying, okay, well, now we're the same team.
What you could do, to T-Bone's point, if you wanted to kind of go down this path, Luis Arraez, maybe you trade Masyn Winn, you get one of those pitchers, and you go sign Luis Arraez in the offseason, and he becomes your second baseman. Now, I don't think you're going to love that contract. He's going to be 30 years old starting next season.
I don't know. He'll get significant dollars on the market. Nobody valued him this past year.
Maybe not, but he's coming off of his best season of his career. I don't know how teams are going to value that. He's not a profile that I would bet on. He doesn't strike out, but he also doesn't walk. And if you run into a year with some potentially bad luck with the batted ball stuff, you're potentially batting, or you're betting on the highest coming off of his best season of his career. I don't know how that's going to age. If you're going to have to give him a 5-year, $90 million deal or something like that, that could look pretty bad here within the next couple of years because he might just be a future first baseman as well. Yeah. Might also be the best year of his career defensively.
Yeah.
All right, alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, coming up in 15 minutes, the NBA buzz continues to grow here in St. Louis. We'll let you hear what the mayor had to say about it in 15 minutes. But next, NFL Quick Hitters here on 101 ESPN. With Alex and T-Bone on BK, all right, let's dive into some NFL quick hitters. I saw some NFL win totals were released over the weekend, Alex.
Oh, baby.
Who do you think? There are 2 teams in the NFL that have the highest win total for the 2026 campaign.
Let's all say it together, the one we all think first.
Yep.
3, 2, 1, Rams.
Yep, that's correct. They are at 11.5, but they are tied with one other team. Can you name that other team?
I would say the Bills.
That would be my guess as well.
They are not the other team. They are at 10.5.
Is it the Patriots?
They are not. They are also at 10.5.
All right, if I had my votes, T-Bone, you can have some now.
Chargers, they get a lot of hype.
They are at 9.5.
Ravens.
Ding, 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 ding,
That's
ding,
so
ding, ding.
stupid.
The Baltimore Ravens are tied with the LA Rams for the highest win total for the 2026-2027 NFL season. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, it's probably right because Lamar Jackson is a MVP for a reason. He's the most valuable player in the regular season. I wouldn't trust it. Derrick Henry's older. They didn't do much to really upgrade most of their areas. So really you're banking on Lamar Jackson to be great. So I would say I would have the Bills over the Ravens. And frankly, I think I'd have the Patriots over the Ravens.
I think I would take the under on 11.5 for Baltimore. It just feels too high for a team that was a total dud last year.
Yep.
And I know, BK brought up Harbaugh. Potentially, maybe he's lost some of his juice. I don't know, man. Are we really going to say that he was the biggest problem on the Ravens? They had a Lamar problem as well. So
Brandon.
I would say take the under on 11.5.
I think a big part of this is that they play the AFC and NFC South this year.
I don't care under.
So you've got potentially...
There's 2 teams in the AFC South, though, that aren't going to be easy.
Okay, but the NFC South.
Okay, that one you think the Saints are going to be great this year.
I said 9 and 8.
No,
somewhere
you
around
said
there.
they were going to be great.
Oh, one of those 9 might be against Baltimore.
Could be. That's week 2 for them.
The NFC South is a fair argument.
Let's
You're going to lose those
quick.
games.
Let's do this real quick, okay? Let's go through their schedule. You guys just give me a quick win or loss, okay? At Indy.
Loss.
Win.
Come on, man.
Daniel Jones says he's going to be back.
Home against the Saints.
Well, that's a win.
Neutral side against the Cowboys. I'm guessing that's overseas. I'm not sure.
I'll say loss.
Home against Tennessee.
Win.
At Atlanta.
Win.
At Cleveland.
Win.
I someone got to start saying loss
Cincy.
here. Loss.
They healthy? I'll say loss.
Okay. At Buffalo.
Loss.
Jacksonville.
Loss.
I loss.
Chargers.
Loss.
Carolina.
Win.
Loss. I need more losses.
Shut up, man.
Loss.
At Houston.
They're going to lose to somebody in the South.
You guys yelled at me on my first loss against Indy, and you're going to try and sell me on the Panthers? What was the one you said?
Houston.
Sorry. That's a loss.
Tampa.
Loss.
All right, he's out on this one.
Baker's going to pick them apart. Loss.
2 games against Pittsburgh.
I say you win and lose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cleveland at home.
Win.
That's a win.
And then Cincy.
Loss.
I think win 1, lose 1.
Yeah, you're going to win 1, lose 1.
You got them at about 10.
Yeah.
10 or 11.
Well, Tanner's got him at like 8 because he's got the NFC South beating him.
I think their schedule allows for this to make some sense. I think this is less about their overall quality of their team and more about their schedule.
T-Bone and I are going to say, now consider when Lamar gets hurt or Derrick Henry gets hurt.
What is his average week of tummy issues?
I think normally like right around the flu season.
Okay.
So
all right.
You get into
November.
Me
That's probably
too,
why
man.
it's a
chilly.
loss. Once we got a little bit later in the year, and he mentioned the Panthers. He's probably out.
My tum-tum issues kick in about December.
You couldn't beat Carolina with that tummy problem.
Hey, man, they give me the...
Even without their great linebacker, they just lost.
The wiggles in the belly, you know?
Yeah. What?
The
You don't get the wiggles in the belly?
I don't get the wiggles in the belly, no.
Maybe I got worms.
Do you guys... Which one of you said Philly cannot win the Super Bowl?
I did.
Both of you did?
Yeah, I think both of us did.
They're at 10.5 on this,
Yeah, that's
which is
legit.
tied with Buffalo, Cincy, Detroit, KC, New England, and Seattle.
What division do they play this year?
I'll have to go look.
I think they're probably around like a 9 to 10 win team. So, I mean,
play
10
the AFC South, and it looks like the NFC North?
Oh, North will be brutal.
No, NFC West.
Oh, okay.
Under.
Yeah, no. I'm going to take the under. I'm taking the under. Go through their schedule. I guarantee that's less than 10.
I didn't need to hear it anymore. I heard the NFC West, and I was like,
AFC
3
South
losses.
is good, I guess.
All right, on the other side of this, worst team in the league.
I'm looking at it
Dolphins.
right now, so I can't guess.
Dolphins.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second worst.
Yep, they're the second worst.
Is it the Jets?
No.
Jets always seem to be
They're
there.
tied for the third worst.
I don't think I could put the Cardinals in there. Is it the Saints? The Saints would be funny as hell.
No, Saints are at 7.5.
Okay, so the Dolphins and Jets were my best guess here. So I guess I'll just go with the chalk answer in the Browns.
No, they're tied for third worst.
Titans?
No.
Okay, I'm out.
You said the name.
I
Yeah,
did?
Arizona.
Really?
Yep, Arizona at
Everybody
3.
gets-
Dude, 3.5.
Everybody gets mad at me when I say that they don't have a whole lot, and they're like, well, they got Trey McBride, and they got all these weapons.
I'm going to lose so much money betting on their over. That's crazy. 3.5 wins.
I don't know if I've ever seen a 3.5.
That's crazy.
There's no
man.
way that they're
Well, I mean, they got
They
six
can't win
losses.
4 games by
They
accident.
got
And the
6
Dolphins are
losses in their
4.5.
division.
Probably, but they could win one of those games. I don't know who it's going to be against. They have played the Rams tight in the past.
I mean, they
just
don't
to
have
use them as an
They
example.
don't have a quarterback.
I'm
So
saying if they play the Rams at like the end of the year, maybe because like McVay will rest everybody. But I think the
I
Rams
know they don't have a
finish
quarterback, but he's fine. Brissett is fine. And they've got decent weapons.
Isn't Brissett the guy that helps teams win the first overall pick?
Yes, but
okay. So maybe I'm starting to
I do think
understand
they've got
why.
decent weapons.
Look, I think the Dolphins are worse than the Cardinals.
Game.
Dolphins are by far worse than the Cardinals.
I agree.
I put the Jets there, too. I think the Jets are worse than the Cardinals.
I'm guessing this is just a reflection of what T-Bone said, where, hey, you play in the NFC West, you've got 6 likely losses, whereas with Miami, hey, man, you play the Jets, might get a win or 2 there.
I think I would be betting the over on that one, no question.
I do, too, man.
I wouldn't want to touch that one.
Las Vegas, by the way, 5.5. Would you guys take the over or under on 5.5 for Vegas this year?
I'd take under. I mean, talk about another tough division, right? Chargers good, Chiefs.
I'm not going to bet on Mendoza to come in and all of a sudden be a god to that team.
I don't know if they'll do it or not. They've kind of flirted with the idea of starting Kirk Cousins at the beginning of the year.
And their defense literally did nothing.
Yeah.
He just kept Max Crosby.
By
Which
accident.
might be a good thing. I think I would take the over, but not by much. Like 6-11 seems very in play. This year on their schedule, they've got Miami, they've got the Jets, they've got the Browns, the Titans, and Arizona. If you just win those games, you're at 5, and now you've got to find one other win somewhere else.
I can't wait for
I
my
could see
Survivor
an
picks
over
this
here.
year.
Not feeling good about it, but I could see them going over. Week 1, Vegas versus Miami is going to be a very popular Survivor pick.
I'm not going to touch that one.
I can see that being a very popular
Good,
Survivor
and I hope
pick.
the Dolphins win that one.
Can I tell you the one I immediately saw? I went, nope, under. That'd be BK's favorite team, the Green Bay Packers,
What
at
is it at?
9.5.
Oh, yeah, under.
Under.
Yeah.
Under. I think this is the year that finally happens.
Yeah.
They always float around 10 wins. I'm betting on they're not touching it this year.
Yeah. But I heard Micah Parsons in defeat now, so it's a good guy to have on your defense.
Raiders at home against the Dolphins. That's going to be a game that nobody should watch, but a lot of people are going to end up watching it because of Survivor, I think.
Put it in prime time.
I've learned my lesson.
You know
I'm
what?
not touching that.
Nope. Chargers at home against the Cardinals.
That one I will
be the pick.
That one I will be taking the Chargers.
That will be the pick.
Yeah. That one I'm all over the Chargers.
That being said, man, if you're playing with some
Cojones?
game theory, you're never going to pick the Vegas Raiders again probably all year.
Go through their schedule. I might.
No, I would not. I would hope to never pick them.
Mendoza heats up maybe as the season goes on, right?
If I get towards the end, I'm like, oh man, the Raiders are on my list. I go, everybody want to settle? Everybody want to settle?
Who wants to split?
At New Orleans, they're at the Jets, they're at Cleveland, home against Tennessee, but that's week 16. Yeah, you're probably not using, barring something unforeseen, you're probably not using the Raiders anywhere else.
The Saints at the Saints one killed me last year when Baker collapsed against Tyler Shuck. That was it was me and like 25 other teams. Jerk.
Coming up next, the NBA buzz continues to grow louder here in St. Louis. Is it actually realistic? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. Cardinals fell to the Reds yesterday 5-3 as they dropped 2 of 3 at home to Cincinnati. They start a 4-game set with the Chicago Cubs tonight. 6:45 will be first pitch. David Peterson on the mound for Chicago. Matthew Liberatore will get the start for St. Louis. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
T-Bone, the Big Ten preseason media poll is out. Where do you think Illinois ranks among the 18 teams in the Big Ten heading into the season?
18th.
No. There's Rutgers still.
Purdue's 18th, actually.
Well, that makes sense. They've got old Missouri coach there. I'll say 10th.
9th. You're pretty close,
I almost
though.
said 9. I thought that was a little high.
Ohio State 1, Oregon 2, Indiana 3. That's disrespectful to Indiana, let's be real.
Jeez.
I get it, but that's disrespectful.
Signetti some motivation.
They're so going to win it now.
USC 4, Michigan 5, Penn State 6, Washington 7, Iowa above your Illini at 8.
The football you hate the most.
At 9.
It's
Interesting.
gonna be better.
Nebraska all the way down at 11, man. Whew, those fans are going to go nuts. They just gave their coach a huge contract extension. Quarterback transfers to be the backup at Oregon, and now you're stuck 11th in the preseason media poll. All right, so earlier today, Alex, the St. Louis mayor, Kara Spencer, was on with TMA, and they were talking primarily about the settlement money from the Rams suit. They talked a little bit about that. But Tim did ask about the NBA buzz that's happening lately, especially over the weekend as it continues to grow louder with Portland. I don't know if they're going to stay in Portland.
Yeah, it's getting ugly.
For sure. And part of that ownership group is a native St. Louisan. So there's at least the possibility that, hey, Seattle can get a new team, but it's probably expansion. Vegas can get a new team. It's probably expansion. Well, if there's a relocation situation here with Portland, could St. Louis be a destination for them? Take a listen.
Is it something that your office monitors? When
What's funny, just to kind of marry that back to the conversation about the Blues, I always thought in my dream world that stadium could serve a dual purpose. So that at the time when we were looking at those investments, I thought, well, why can't we kind of rethink this whole stadium experience and consider an NBA here as well? So absolutely something that's on the radar, something that would be, I think, a great benefit to St. Louisans, and so keeping my ears to the ground.
That's not a no.
No, it's not. It's also not a yes.
How would you guys feel about getting a relocation team? Now that it does feel, I mean, it still feels incredibly unlikely, but this is the most real that it has felt since I've moved here to St. Louis.
Does this remind you of like when the NFL had the 3 teams looking to relocate? When it was the Rams, the Raiders, and the Chargers. Because there's 3 that we've been talking about in Portland, New Orleans, and Memphis.
Yeah, and it
feels very similar.
It even feels like after the Rams were taken away to where it felt like that they kept bringing up all of these relocation teams and everybody kept trying to make St. Louis a thing. And it was like, that's not going to happen. This does feel very real in the sense of you've got a St. Louis owner. It's ugly with Portland right now. You've got so many people that try and incentivize the growth of basketball here, like Shafit's talking about what basketball is in the city of St. Louis. So it feels real. It just also feels like a massive long shot because I don't know how much NBA is looking to go to St. Louis.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, there's only so many markets that you could expand to.
I just feel like there's others. When we went to the Bill Simmons one, I think there's others on that tier list before you get to St. Louis.
If we're talking about a 3rd team, then I'm more... and I was very pessimistic about it last week when we talked because I was thinking 2 teams. And if that's the case, I think it is Kansas
New Orleans,
City,
Memphis,
Nashville.
and Portland. Those are the 3 I think that are at least worth monitoring here. And Portland is feeling more and more real.
Yeah.
Memphis, I have no idea what the plan is there. And I think that if Memphis moves, I think it's to Nashville.
Agreed.
That would be my guess. So let's write off Nashville for a second because I think there's a very clear X to Y. And then New Orleans is the other. And I don't know. I don't know what the plan is there. So if we're saying Nashville is probably the match for Memphis, well, then the other markets that we're talking about here are basically Kansas City and St. Louis, right? Are there any others that you guys think are realistic that we haven't brought up?
Not that I can think of, unless
I can't either.
'cause
They're
you said
already in
Seattle
Salt
and
Lake.
Vegas are getting expansion.
Vegas is an expansion.
Texas
Seattle's
feels like they
expansion.
always want to get as much as possible, but you already got Houston and Sacramento and Dallas, so you're not doing anything
Maybe
there.
Austin. Maybe you could make the argument for Austin to potentially get an NBA team.
Do you think they'd want them that close to Houston?
It's
an
it's a big enough
interstate
city.
battle too, to where I feel like that would draw.
I've never heard Austin connected to anything when it comes to outside of the NHL. It's the only one I've ever heard them connected to.
I think because of I know this sounds silly, but like because of the Kevin Durant connection, I wonder if he could be a part of an ownership group there after he leaves.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how likely
if you're
that
taking
is,
Memphis off of it and putting it to Nashville, then yes, I think it's a little bit more realistic. But that's where like Nashville and Kansas City to me are the 2 tiers above St. Louis. Before you even get to St. Louis to ask if you're interested, I feel like they're going to Kansas City and Nashville first.
I think maybe somebody on the text line brings this up from the 618. Don't steal another city's team. We know what that feels like. You guys are forgetting about the Spurs. I'm talking about the Texas part of it. I think you guys mentioned San Antonio, right? No. Oh, okay. Dallas, Houston, San Antonio.
Oh, yeah,
they've all
we
got
mentioned San Antonio had one. Yeah.
Not in terms of a team that
was taken from them.
Could be taken from them, but San Antonio could be part of the Austin
There's
area.
There's 4 Texas ones already.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think this one feels kind of real. I would keep your eyes open on it. I would try to, if you're somebody that wants the NBA in St. Louis, I would pay attention to the Portland negotiations that are taking place right now with their arena. There's an arena already built here. It's not as though there has to be a new one that is constructed. I do think there's a real basketball fan base in St. Louis. Now, how would that translate to the NBA, especially for a team like Portland that's not very good right now and probably is going to take a while before it gets good again? I don't know. They do have, for whatever you want to call it, they've got a star in Ja Morant. Now, he's got his issues, but he's a star, and he's a really fun basketball player to watch. I think there would be people that would go see him. I'm curious about it, man. Again, it's the first time that I've actually had a real thought about, could this happen? Previously, it's like, no, it's not happening. It's not happening. It's not happening. Because it was always expansion. Relocation, I think, is the way that St. Louis could realistically get a team.
Look, I mean, you've got the stadium. The stadium's had its upgrades. It's a very nice stadium that brings in plenty of concerts and events. They've got the area to do it, which takes a big, hula hoop out of this conversation, because it's always about, how are you going to pay to get this team here? If you're going relocation and you can house them, you're already leaps and bounds ahead of what most. But that's the thing with Kansas City. Kansas City doesn't have the other team to deal with, which I think would be a little bit more desirable to an NBA team. And Nashville is just, no disrespect because I've been born and raised here, it's just a more desirable spot when you're a team.
I do wonder on the arena side of things. Like, as you're fighting for dates, I wonder how the Blues would feel about this. Because I'm sure they would have some influence on the decision.
Because they already have to deal with the Arch Madness tournament, which is why typically at the beginning of March, you always have those long road trips.
To be honest with you, I think this would kick Arch Madness out of St. Louis.
Oh, no. Yeah. Or it's moving it to Chaffetz. Or it's moving it to Chaffetz.
Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah. But, I mean, I know the Blues, not that the Blues have problems with it, but that's what they have to do. You have to...
You've got that road trip.
Yeah, you have that 2-week-long road trip, which most of the team doesn't like to have that at the beginning of March when you're that close to the playoff race. So, there's things you have to jump through to try and make it work.
The problem with this is you're getting rid of weekend dates, potentially.
Yeah.
Because one of the two teams can't be at home.
And they love their Saturday 6 o'clock games. That's why you see so many of them now on Saturdays at 6 o'clock.
Exactly.
So that's something that I don't know how much they desire. That I'm sure they love the idea of expanding St. Louis, but I think the NBA would have to be okay taking a back seat to the Blues, and I'm not sure how the NBA is going to feel about that.
Somebody on the text line, quit the NBA talk. It's not happening in a 30-year-old arena despite the upgrades.
All right, coming up next.
Let's rewind it.
There's only so many options where you have an arena. A lot of these are going to take 5+ years to A, get approved, and then B, get constructed.
Yeah.
So Kansas City has an arena, but it's not as new at this point as it was when they first built. It's 20 years old.
Those upgrades that they've done in Enterprise Center, you could say it's a 30-year-old arena.
Doesn't look at it at all.
Those are damn good upgrades to make that 30-year-old arena look brand new.
It's a really nice arena, man.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be a draw. I think Enterprise Center would be totally fine. I think an NBA team, my guess is they'd be more than happy to play there. It's just a matter of the market. Would they be cool with being here in St. Louis? Would they view that as an upgrade from Portland? And that is impossible to know. But the mayor seemingly being on board is a good starting point because let's be real here, man. Politicians here in St. Louis have not always been on board with what the sporting topic of the month is when it comes to some kind of finances. And I think that's part of this is there wouldn't really have to be a whole lot of finances that are in play.
That's the biggest loop that you got to jump through.
Hey, ownership's there. It's ready to go. They move here. They've got an arena, and boom, you take off running. So I think it's really interesting, and we'll probably be talking more about this, much to the chagrin of some of the texters who don't want us to.
God, that was just so good, T-Bone. All right, coming up next.
Coming up next, the Rewind here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
101 ESPN app, super easy to use. It's free to download. It is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. And if you would like to sponsor something, guess what? We've got some new opportunities to do so over on the Redbird Report or the Last Minute Blues podcast, all over on the YouTube page at youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. If you're interested in becoming a partner with either of those two shows, feel free to reach out to Alex, T-Bone, or myself. Do so on social media. You can email us as well. We'd be happy to talk to you about some of that. All right, Alex, to finish out the show today, the Cardinals over the weekend lose 2 out of 3 against the Cincinnati Reds. Yesterday was yet another disappointing loss in a string of quite a few of those. What's been your biggest takeaway of what we've seen from the Cardinals to open up the second half of the season?
That they're permanently sellers in my mind. I mean, you've lost all of the offense from your big hitters in terms of Walker with home runs, Burley and Herrera, just their all-around skills, Weatherholt with that young sensation. It's just completely disappeared. We know your pitching is starting to really get worn thin, but when you've got no offense and your pitching's trying to keep things competitive, man, it is a tough disaster to try and get back on the right foot. And for the Cardinals now, it just truly feels like they're at that position to where everything is collapsing, and it's very difficult to play perfect baseball. So I think after the Angels and the Reds drop, I think that has pointed them towards the selling aspect, and that's where things just get difficult to try and keep things positive.
The second half of the season has shown you and been eye-opening for some of us that were believers in them as a playoff team, how fragile the roster construction really was and how fragile they were as an organization with their pitching depth, because we talked about it. You know, as much as it is on the offense for going extremely cold, even if the offense was playing well, I don't know how good they'd be right now.
They played well in the L.A., and it didn't help them.
They scored 7 against the Diamondbacks, and it didn't help them. The reason I say that their roster is fragile is because, and I mean by just their depth, is look at the impact of JoJo's injury, right? It wasn't even anything to do with his arm. It was something random of his, has appendicitis, has to have surgery, goes on the IL, and you've felt that from day one coming out of the All-Star break. So it was a reminder of just how thin this roster was.
The JoJo Romero one has probably cost them 2, maybe 3 losses in the second half already. And if you just flip those in the other direction, we're talking completely differently today, you know? But the fact that one loss from the bullpen can have that much of a tangible impact speaks to where they're at right now. And so, yeah, I think we're all on the same page. It's very likely this team's going to be a seller. That's where most of our conversations will be headed over the next week. We will have a live trade deadline reaction show as part of the Redbird Report next Monday. The Cardinals will be in New York for the trade deadline. They're scheduled right now to see Dustin May versus Cam Schlittler. My guess is you will not see Dustin May start that game.
What the hell?
Could you maybe see Quinn Mathews start
that's
that
more
game?
exciting.
Or Hunter Dobbins start that game.
Bryson Motts.
No.
Oh, no, he's a bullpen.
Probably not. But
maybe he'll come out of the bullpen for him.
No, we don't want to see him.
No, I heard he had a bad outing over the weekend.
He got BKO'd.
Jesus, man, you've been pumping the guy's tires for 4 weeks, and then you just ruin his career like that.
Speaking of pitching, Matthew Liberatore on the mound tonight for your St. Louis Cardinals. He's going up against the Chicago Cubs. It is a home start, which means maybe he's going to be all right. So far this year, he has a 4.6 ERA at home, a 5.8 ERA on the road.
So he is better.
So if you are comparing the two, it is quite a bit better here than it is on the road.
It didn't go bad against the Cubs the last time he pitched. 5 innings, 4 earned runs.
You're also going up against David Peterson, who, as we've mentioned before, is terrible. How you feeling going into tonight, Alex?
Not good.
Okay.
Not good. I think they lose. I think this one's 6-2.
I think you get a win in this one. Last time that they saw David Peterson, he went 3 2/3 innings and gave up 10 earned runs. The time prior, he went 3 2/3 innings, gave up 6 earned runs. I think you get a win tonight, 8-5.
What teams were those against, though?
What do you mean?
That Peterson pitched against?
The Cardinals?
Oh, I thought you meant the last 2 times he started. I didn't know it was against the Cardinals.
This is the most
rocked by the Cardinals.
He has pitched against the Cardinals twice in the last 6 weeks, and both of them he has allowed 6 or more earned runs and fewer than 4.
Yeah, he'll look great against the Cardinals.
I say Cubs win 6-4. I think Peterson looks better than expected because the offense can't hit a beach ball right now.
Well, we will break that thing down for you tomorrow. For Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. The Fast Line's next here on 101 ESPN.